Good morning and welcome to the final day of action here at the British Swimming Championships, live from Deep End Live. My name's John Mason. Joining me in the studio is James Goddard here for an Easter Sunday show. How you doing, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic as always. It's been a great week. It's been a pleasure being here with you in this lovely little studio. Seen some fantastic swimming this week. One more day, loads of action.
Of course, it is, of course, Easter Sunday as well, and I'm having a great time with you as well. Until brought in an Easter egg, Jimmy's attacked it. Ate it all. Mate, I tell you what, can't leave anything lying around. Moving on though, of course, last night, penultimate day of finals here at the Swimming Championships. It was an awesome one. It was a roller coaster.
It was. Yeah, we kicked off with the men's 800 metres freestyle. Samuel Budd winning, new British champion. He was pleased, came in here, did a little interview from the city of Sheffield. They've got this great history about, with distance swimmers. So he came in, great swim from him to kick us off. Georgia Davies bounced back and won the 50 metres backstroke, which was so cool. We saw Ben Proud in action for the first time. Didn't he look good? He looked strong, powerful. He's got this beautiful straight arm freestyle that allows for a lot more range and power in his stroke. Looked fantastic. So congratulations to him. Under the consideration time for the World Championships as well, so well done to Ben.
I know, it's going to be brilliant to see. He's back in today as well for the 50 fly. But, just going back to George there, what I've really loved about this week, bringing, the athletes in here and we're getting a long time with them sort of after their race. She was very disappointed the other day, but seeing her come back in here and seeing how she bounced back and how, such a sort of experienced veteran of the sport, being able to pick herself up and move herself forward, I think, such an inspiration to a lot of swimmers back home watching.
And that's what's so good, I think, about sitting the swimmers down in here, having a little chat with us. People at home, the young swimmers out there at the swimming clubs, the juniors out there can see, what it means to these senior swimmers as well. We don't have great swims every single time, and Georgia was a perfect highlight of that. She didn't do what she wanted to achieve, but she had a plan. She had to go back to with her coach, watch the swim over, learned where she went wrong, and adapt.
Someone who did, though, biggest swimmer of the night, I thought, Duncan Scott. Incredible in the men's 200-metre individual medley. I mean, Duncan Scott, world-class swimmer, but you and I were sitting here watching that, and, I've always sort of thought, oh, maybe the breaststroke, we'll see how that goes. He killed it.
I know, it was amazing, and he was 1/100th off the British record, actually. He was so close to getting that British record. Under the consideration time again, he's already qualified, guaranteed for the 100 freestyle. Now he's got the consideration time for the 200 IM, so we will be doing that at the Worlds, I'm pretty sure. Amazing, that breaststroke leg, I was so impressed. Quite often you don't think about breaststroke and freestyle together. Yeah. You don't think, but he had a world-class breaststroke, and he put a lot of it down to his coaching staff, his teammates. He trains with Ross Murdoch and Craig Benson, two unbelievable world-class breaststrokers. So what a superb all-round swimmer.
It was brilliant. As soon as he said that, I hadn't thought of it, and as soon as he said that, well, I train with Ross and Craig. I was like, oh, well, that makes complete sense. Makes perfect sense. Finished the night, of course, with the women's 200-metre individual medley as well. Siobhan Marie O'Connor, silver medalist at Rio in that event. She was back in the pool, took the title. Not too happy with the time, but still a great swim from her.
Yeah, we're seeing the 100 breaststroke today. She's shortened down her program. She said that she's only doing the two events. She really wants to focus on the two. We'll see in the 100 breaststroke today, see how she gets on. Before we go, though, I've got to give a big shout out to the juniors this week. They have smashed it. Every time I look at the program, every time I watch them swim, it's PB, PB, PB. And I've written down a swimmer from yesterday in the 400 metres freestyle, Tamrin Van Selm, 15 years old, from Bromley Swimming Club. 4:19 in the heats, stepped up to the final, went 4:16, knocked 3 seconds off her best time. That's just a prime example of how fantastic these juniors have been swimming.
It's so good to see, and I think it sort of sets the bar. It's a really exciting time for British swimming to see how these juniors are going to develop and who are going to be the superstars of the future. Speaking of superstars of the sport, we've got some coming back here in Glasgow at December. It is the Len European Short Course Championships right here in Tollcross. So let's take a look at what you got to look forward to. So there you have it, Europeans, and of course a word from one of our sponsors. But moving back to the action today, we're kicking off this morning's session with the men's 50-meter butterfly. We then have the women's 100-meter breaststroke, the men's 200-meter backstroke, the women's 100-meter butterfly, the men's 200-meter freestyle, and the women's 1,500 meters. What a final day. It's an absolutely massive program. Jimmy, who should we be keeping our eye out for?
Yeah, huge last day. Can't wait to watch it, really. It's been so amazing all week. I'm looking forward to Siobhan in the 100 breaststroke. Ben Proud in the 50 meters butterfly. He's actually the world champion in the 50 fly. So big, so powerful. Love watching him swim. Glides across the surface of the water. Of course, I'm looking forward to the men's 200 meters backstroke.
Yes.
It was my event when I swam. But Luke Greenbank, personal best time in the 100 earlier this week, 53.9, his first time, going 53 seconds, and how happy he was sat here to do that best time. That should give him loads of confidence for that 200 backstroke this morning.
I know, and we of course got the men's 200-meter freestyle later as well. That is my pick for the day. I think we were discussing it earlier, and these men are going to have to swim world-class times in the heats, even if they want to make the finals, because it's just such a stacked field.
Yeah. Duncan Scott, James Guy, Callum Jarvis, just to name a few, on 157, 156, 147, 146, 145, that kind of, that sort of time. So these guys this morning have to swim super quick to get into that final, and they're going to want to get on that relay spot as well, because we've got a seriously strong 4x2 relay for the World Championships.
Yeah, I put a lot of pressure on that. I think we've been world champions the last few times at that as well. So a lot of pressure there, and it's certainly going to be one to watch. You do not want to miss it. But remember, wherever you're watching from, if you're up here in the crowd or, of course, at home watching the stream, we would love to hear from you. So you can get in touch with us via social media. The hashtag for the entire event has been hashtag BSC19 and hashtag DeepEndLive. We love seeing what you guys are doing, and Jimmy and I do go through them as well and listen to what you're saying and see what you want to hear more of, etc. But of course, we couldn't put these events on without a lot of our sponsors, so let's take a look at what they've got to say.
The latest in tech suit innovation. Frictionless fiber construction. Surface lift technology. Endo compression cage. Seamless exo shell. Tier Benzo. Battleborn.
And then we'll have the 1,500 freestyle heats, 4 of them, and then we'll have the heat declared winner tonight in the evening session. I know that you were having some hearing problems, and your equipment was not working there for a moment, Rebecca Adlington, but she's on board now, and she can hear all of my dulcet tones right through to about 12:30. How are you?
I was panicking how that would work.
Yes, I know. There was that ashen look on your face like, I don't know what's going on here.
No, but now I can hear you, and I'm very much excited for our last day.
It is. Do you know what? It has flown. It really has flown. I know we say that, and it's kind of, well, oh, yeah, you would say that. But to me, I could quite gladly go on for a bit longer here, but we are done and dusted today. And it's not even a kind of, oh, well, we're going to tip off the edge. It's not that exciting. There are some great races today, and I'm particularly looking forward to that 200 free because it is stacked, a bit like the 200 IM was last night. The 200 freestyle is stacked, and there will be, we can almost safely presume and predict, a major casualty or two who will not make that open final.
I think there's something in every race today. I mean, we've got Ben Proud, then the women's 100 breaststroke, Siobhan Marie O'Connor, and with the women's having the 100 breaststroke and the 100 butterfly, that is going to make up their relay team, so it's going to be really interesting to see who can win that. Luke Greenbank had a fantastic 100 back, and now he's stepping into his main event for the 2. Then, like you said, the men's 200 freestyle. It's literally like the men's 200 medley last night. We cannot call it. It depends how quickly Duncan has recovered from last night. And
he is Speedy Gonzalez this week, isn't he? Is he on rocket fuel or what? The way he went through that breast, and there we are, thinking we know about Duncan's breaststroke. We knew nothing about his breaststroke last night, didn't we?
Well, I knew nothing, Bob. I thought Max was going to overhaul him on the breaststroke, but certainly didn't end up that way.
No, most certainly did not. Right. Okay, we're ready. They are ready. So let's get underway with the first heat of the morning of the 15 meters butterfly for men. So the splash and dash of the butterfly. 7 of them we will see. Jay Cushion of Winsford, Maxwell Cooper of Mount Kelly, Greg Fairbairn of Bells Hill, Ellis Morgan of Wickham District, Calvin Fry of Millfield, and a very lively start from the Millfield swimmer on the far side. Calvin Fry's got a 26.39 entry time. Looks like nobody's going to catch on. Potentially Maxwell Cooper could from Mount Kelly, but I think our winner's going to come from the far side, from lane 6. It does. 25.74, so over a half a second improvement for Calvin Fry. Second to Maxwell Cooper, 26.23 for him, so that he's gone in the right direction by 15/100ths. And third was Ellis Morgan of Wickham District. That's your 1, 2, 3 for the 50 butterfly. Also, by the way, later on when we get to the 1500 meters freestyle heats for women, we'll be joined by Tim Jones ahead of Elite Development to talk about how good the juniors have been this week.
I'm really looking forward to hearing from Tim, because obviously a year out from the Olympics, and he's kind of become going to spot those guys that kind of like, oh yeah, they're on the right progression, and how they now move that on forward. It's a very hard transition going from junior to senior, so I'll be looking forward to speaking to him.
He'll be joining us, say, later on in the last event of the morning, the 1500 freestyle heats for women, which we will have 4. As I say, we have 7 of these, the 50 butterfly. And next up, these are the clubs represented: Burke Hampstead, Plymouth Leander, Sutton Cheam, Bedfordshire, Ellesmere College, Maidenhead, Aberdeen Performance, and Isle of Man. Zachary Patel, Sam Perks, Luke Shaw, Sam Townsend, Joel Thompson, Adrian Ting, Fraser Agnew, and Peter Allen. They are the swimmers in this one. We get to 25 meters, and lane number 2 is Sam Perks. And Plymouth Leander's had a good start. So too is Peter Allen on the far side from the Isle of Man. But lane 2 looking prominent. Looks like he's going to go from one wall to the other wall in the lead, and he will do. 25.62 for our winner. Fastest time of the morning for Sam Perks, and that's again another over half a second PB for him. Sam Townsend in 4th place, second going to Sam Perks. Sorry, second was Sam Townsend of Bedfordshire. Third, as equals second. There we go. That's what the confusion was for a moment. Any confusion in my mind though. Fraser Agnew and Sam Townsend equal second, and Zachary Patel in 4th. But another winning time with a new PB. Heat number 3. Oh, a bit of Don't You Forget About Me. Simple Minds playing through the speakers there. Wow. Oh, that's my year. You weren't even born then. I think you were just about born then.
I do know the song though, Bob. I don't live under a rock.
Good tune. Good tune. Heat number 3. Oscar Smiley of South Ayrshire. Aaron Fox of Bevington. Ryan Ferguson of the First Club. Reed Jones of Plymouth Leander. Shakil Giordani of Haringey. Will Morris of Tynemouth. Cole Hewitt of Sheffield, Keir Edgar of the First Club, all in heat number 3 of the 50 butterfly for men. We've had a very clear leader in all of our races so far. Looks like we might have the same thing here with Reed Jones of Plymouth Leander, who's got to the 25 well ahead of everybody else, and that's a case of holding on, of course, here, if he possibly can, because Shako Gordani is finishing very strongly next to him, but it will be lane 4. Actually, it won't be. It is Gordani. Gordani got his finish better. 25.74.
I won 100.
Yeah, it was that tight. But, of course, it's spotting the wall that's the important thing. It doesn't matter where you are 2 meters out, does it? It matters where you are when you actually arrive at the wall. And he got his finish absolutely spot on. whereas Reed Jones just slightly off. Look at that, top three separated by 3/100ths of a second.
That's why I always find it amazing with Ben Proud, and we'll look at this morning the fact that he just doesn't breathe. I think, how do you possibly spot the wall? But he's just got everything timed to a perfection. How many strokes he does, what he needs to do to spot that wall without even looking up at it.
It's heat number 4 of 7 of the 50 fly. Craig Greenock of City of Glasgow, William Graham of Melton Mowbray, Bruno Kempster of Bath, Alec White of Exeter City, Ewan Smith, University of Stirling, Thomas Carswell, Tadcaster, Hugh Williams. Oh dear, who went? Oh dear, dear, dear. Well, we've only had one DQ off the start this week. I'm afraid we're going to have another one, which is going to be Ewan Smith, I think, is going to depart now. Unless, yeah, it looks like he knows.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right for lane 2, isn't it? Because he just went
just
in
followed
after
him in,
yeah.
yes. Ewan Smith, though, unfortunately triggered William Graham going in. So Ewan Smith sadly will depart the scene and we'll be left with 7. Just too eager. So Ben Proud doesn't do that later on. Ben Proud's no problems at all off the 50 free start, but his problems have been off the 50 fly start. Oh, maybe that's Craig Hunter, referee, just issuing the instructions. And has he? No, he hasn't reinstated him. He's not there. So there is no lane 5. Everybody else, though, will be getting underway in the slightly delayed heat number 4. With the sprinters, they want to go. They twitch, they twitch, they twitch. They really want to go and don't want to be held up, and just a little bit over-eager there was Ewan Smith. Now, who's going to get to the front here? Look at lane 8 go very quickly here. Adam Metcalf of Ellesmere College is having a strong start. Thomas Carswell of Tadcaster likewise, and coming through in lane number 4, Alec White of Exeter City. I think he might just be the winner here. He is in 25.36, but again, mighty tight. Only a 1/10 of a second between him and Thomas Carswell. Bruno Kempster in third, 25.56. So a marginal improvement, but an improvement nonetheless for our winner by 3/100ths. Heat number 5. First of our, yeah, I'm going to say it again, cyclically seeded heats coming up for you with the likes of Sam Horrocks of City of Manchester Aquatics. We're down to the 24s now. Been 25s up to now, but there'll be plenty of 24s or potentially 24s in this. He'll be trying to get into the 23s for the first time with Sam Horrocks in lane number 4. Ned Sharp of Skipton is in 1. Sam Daly of Mount Kelly is in 2. Alexander Bowen, there you go. Oh, hello. Not quite sure what that is. I'll run through them for you. Ned Sharp of Skipton, Sam Daly of Mount Kelly, Alexander Bowen of Loughborough University. I think our system just crashed a little bit there. Sam Horrocks of City of Manchester Aquatics in 4. Lewis Fraser of Swansea in 5. 6 is Robert Bryce. That may be affecting the timing system as well, I wonder. Joel Watterson, Isle of Man 7, and his teammate from the Isle of Man, Ewan McMurchie in lane 8. That may, yeah, they've been told to stand down, so what you got on your screen, yeah, we're getting... We have to have a slight reboot, I think, here before we can carry on, because we haven't cleared the last result yet.
It's one of those hard ones for the boys. When you get told to kind of stand down, it's like, do you put your clothes back on? It's kind of like, how long is it going to last? But they're all going to try and stay focused, stay in the zone.
Right, we have now the last result confirmed, so that should allow us to give you there's the result of the last one, which hopefully will now release us to give you the full information for heat number 5. So it was a complete gobbledygook, wasn't it, before? But this is the complete correct lineup and order of lanes and swimmers. So I've run through them once for you. We'll just let the race continue. But just say that Sam Horrocks has got 24.04. Lewis Fraser with a 24.33. Alexander Bowen with a 24.61. So we're into the 24s. I say potentially, with Sam Horrocks, we could get into the 23s. And he's got into a lovely position off that start. He's got a couple going with him either side. We've got Alexander Bowen in lane 3. In lane 5, Lewis Fraser. And see if there's anybody on top of the picture who might spoil things. Yeah, lane 6, strong from Robert Bryce of Aberdeen, but it will be 3 that will get it. Yes. Alexander Bowen with a 24.33, so around about a third of a second better than he has been before. Lewis Fraser in second for Swansea, and third to Sam Horrocks of City of Manchester Aquatics, 3 under 25 there. That's a confirmed result for you.
There's a lot of slapping going on again, Bob. That's all I can hear.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Just close your eyes. It's like Amsterdam on a Saturday night. On to heat 6 of 7. Thomas Beasley of Plymouth, 2 Ben Hooper of Hillingdon, Callum Bain of University of Stirling, Jacob Peters, welcome back to him, named 4. 5 Scott McClay, University of Stirling, Matt Crisp of Warwick, 7 Rory Huggins of Surrey University, and James Watson of the Crew Flyers. Who's going to be the flyer in this one? Could well be lane 4, could be lane 5. They both got off to brilliant starts. Jacob Peters and Scott McClay. What a week Scott McClay's having. 24.3 is entered in on here. I'm sure, like most of the swimmers he's had this week, he's probably going to go under his personal best. He's pushing Jacob Peters all the way to the wall. Peters will get there just ahead of him by 7/100ths of a second. 24.32 for our winner. So he has been sub 24, not quite as quick as he has been. But Scott McClay with a 24.32 right on his personal best there. Fastest of the morning by 8/100ths of a second. Okay, Ben Proud, you're up next. Your big moment in the butterflies arrived. He's already had his big moment last night in the freestyle. No lane 2. Matthew Richards not with us from Royal Wolverhampton, but everybody else is that's on that sheet. Now we concentrate, of course, on the man who holds the British record. 22.75 set in Budapest. That is Ben Proud. Of course, swimming under the colours of Plymouth Leander, but training with James Gibson in Turkey. And I was about to say, catch me if you can. Nobody should be able to if he's on form. Cameron Brooks-Clark is giving him a push, but as he's pushing, Ben's pushing even harder on the butterfly. He'll be the first to the wall. What kind of time will he clock? It's a 23.99 is what it is. And that is a lovely, comfortable morning swim for Ben Proud. Only swimmer under 24 this morning. Cameron Brooks-Clark with a 24.42. In third place, it is Henry Bland of City of Cardiff. And, well, he looked very good in the heats yesterday and didn't maybe quite go as fast last night as we were expecting.
Yeah, I think his butterfly seems a lot smoother, though, than his front crawl. He always looks so long and he doesn't look rushed. And I think that's sometimes with the sprint events, when you try harder, you actually don't progress because you just snatch the water and you don't hold it. Whereas, and it's interesting, I think the pressure's off for Ben now because he's got that consideration time for the Worlds and there isn't one for the 50 metres butterfly. So tonight he can just go in and enjoy it.
There's top 8. That's the ones who will return for the Open final later on today. So if you see a name on there, they will be in the third of the 50 butterfly finals later on today. When we talk about open events, this is going to take a bit of qualifying for as well later on today for the open final anyway. The 100 breaststroke for women, including the British record holder, Siobhan Marie O'Connor. That was set in this very pool. So it's interesting that, I've forgotten that. We were saying last night about perhaps Glasgow pool. Some pools don't always suit swimmers, and some swimmers have good memories and bad memories of different pools. She actually did set a 100 breaststroke record here in this pool in 2016.
I think last night for Siobhan, it was one of those that she hasn't had a really consistent block of work. She's been so ill, bless her. She does suffer from colitis as well. And it is one of those that she's just plagued with that. So it's really difficult when you have an event like the medley where you need to do a really good block of endurance. But it shows how talented she is. It shows that when she can, she really pushes herself in training. As to get that consideration time last night, it was a really great swim.
So on to the first of 7 heats of the 100 breaststroke, 4 going in this one. And I'll name them for you from bottom to top on your picture. Natalia Druitt of Abingdon Vale, Georgia Hitzner of Wirral Metro, Abigail Miles, City of Sheffield, and Kidiast Hodgson of City of Leeds going in lane number 6, and they're all pretty even at the 25. Let's see where they are at the 50, just trying to move through those 2 centre lanes. Wirral Metro's Georgia Hittner and Abigail Miles of City of Sheffield. Might just be, oh, actually all 3 of them going to the wall together here. Who's going to get the touch first? Just Abingdon Vale's Natalia Druitt. In fact, all 3 of them separated by no time at all, and second equal are Hittner and Miles at that turn. Who can bring it back stronger? All have slightly different strokes, actually, as you look at them across there. All different variations of 100 breaststroke. And maybe it'll be the red cap of Abigail Miles. The only one who's been slightly dropped is Kidiast Hodgson of City of Leeds, but she's trying to work her way back into that front 3 pack. Or could it be Natalia Druitt, who was our leader at 50, is going to come back and win this on the 100? So on the nod, I think it will be lane number 3. 114.87 for our winner, with Abigail Miles in second place and third going to Georgia Hittner.
Yeah, just off the personal best times there, but it's been a long week for some of these swimmers. We've been mentioning them time and time again. I think even though you're quite not ready to finish this week, Bob, I think some of the swimmers are. I think they're ready for a rest.
Got to say that some of the swimmers have been in the pool not just once or twice, but if they're coming back in the evening and they've qualified for finals. They're doing 4 swims a day. Some of them are in events virtually every day, doing 2 to 4 swims.
Yeah, they really are. So they'll be grateful for the rest tomorrow.
Heat number 2. Everybody there. Eliza Powell just waiting a bit longer. One of the Bromley contingent we've been talking about this week. She's in 4. Ellie Sibbald Perkins of City of Birmingham in 1. 2, Sophia Payne of Hatfield, Alice Chan of Millfield, Caris O'Reilly of City of Leicester, Grace Gidman of Wirral Metro, Phoebe Kelman-Johns of South Bournemouth, and from Wigan Districts, it is Megan Daly. And Phoebe Kelman-Johns has had a very good first 50. She might well be our leader up there, or it could possibly be Caris O'Reilly. Caris O'Reilly just ahead of Phoebe Kelman-Johns at that turn. Megan Daly in third place. Eliza Powell in 34.82 on the turn. Fast in the field, there are a whole clutch of 115s and 14s, but down to the 113s here with Eliza Powell and Alice Chan and Caris O'Reilly. And lane number 5 starting to make big inroads here for the City of Leicester. Caris O'Reilly will now have a bit of company from Phoebe Kelman-Johns and Megan Daly on the far side, but lane 5 looking prominent. Lane 5 going to win it by a fairly comfortable margin in the end for Caris O'Reilly, and that is a 112, new territory for her. Never been 112 before. 112.76, and second place to Eliza Powell of Bromley and a 114.36. She not quite as quick as she has been, and sorry, Phoebe Kelman-Johns actually getting the joint second. Yeah, joint second place, 114.36 for those two. An improvement, quite a considerable one for Caris O'Reilly, the 16-year-old from City of Leicester. On to heat number 3. Amelia Morn of City of Peterborough in 1. Imogen Lambert of Mount Kelly 2. Bridget Mesurier of East Lothian in 3. Amy Mead of Devonshire 4. Elizabeth Kingham of City of Birmingham in 5. Amy Watson, 15 years of age, from Inverclyde. Now, Hermione Rose down as a 14-year-old, might be 13, but she's down as a 14-year-old from Stockport Metro on 7. And 8 is Lucy Ross of East Kilbride. That's a pretty lively start from lane number 3 from Bridget Le Mesurier of East Lothian.
I find the breaststroke interesting to watch. We've been talking about technique a lot this week, and with the backstroke, most people have similar technique, whereas breaststroke, you're starting to see this new style of Adam Peaty come in, where you do come up a little bit higher, and then you see the old kind of, it's not old-fashioned, is it? It's the traditional breaststroke where you're a lot lower. And obviously Amy in lane 6, she's got the kind of real low breaststroke, the real traditional. And then you look at Devonshire swimmer Amy in the middle, she's a lot more Adam Peaty style, and it's kind of really fascinating because both are just as effective as each other, I would say.
Well, it's what suits you, isn't it? You can do a certain adaptation, but it's what feels comfortable in the water. And it feels comfortable for Lucy Ross on the far side of East Kilbride. She's had a very good exceptionally good second 50. She may not win it, though. It might come from lane 4. Amy Mead of DaVincio is coming through, and she'll take it in a time of 1:14.39. Again, she has been quicker than that, but it's enough to take this heat. Second place to Lucy Ross of East Kilbride, and third to Hermione Rowe, Stockport Metro, with a 1:15.5. Again, everybody a bit slower.
It's the last day. It's Easter Sunday.
We'll give them a bit of slack, and exactly that. And as I say, many of these have had multiple swims.
Yeah, and I think with having the finals, for anyone who hasn't joined us all week, where have you been? But if not,
right.
tonight they will have an open final.
Have you brought a note from your mother?
A transition final. And a transition final, because a lot of people have been asking me what is the difference, that it's for anyone born 1996 or younger. So basically, if you're 23 and under, you can make the transition final, and then there is that junior specific final.
Heat number 4. There'll be plenty of names here you've heard before. Katie Goodburn of Warren de Baths, Olivia Heron of Stockport Metro, Maya Hall of Ellesmere College, Lana Broekhoven of Plymouth Leander, Lucia Grant of Plymouth Leander, Georgia Gussie of City of Bristol. I haven't mentioned for her a little later on, yes I do, from the Keynsham Club. Ilizani Pinfold of City of Oxford, and Rosanna Arnold of Guildford City are the 8 that are involved in this one, and we're looking maybe at Lucia Grant of Plymouth Leander right alongside Lana Broekhoven. The 2 teammates go into the wall together, separated by about a third of a second in the end. So Broekhoven from Lucia Grant, Rosanna Arnold in third place, but as we've seen already on the women's breaststroke, it changes or can change quite rapidly. Look at down below, Warren de Baths, Katie Goodburn in lane number 1 is starting to fly through. They won't see her because she's too far out of their range. The 2 Plymouth swimmers are swimming together and going, right, it's a bit of like a club meet, and they're probably just not looking at or able to see Katie Goodburn in 1, or indeed Rosanna Arnold in the outside lane, but it will be lane 1 that'll take it. Well, a terrific second 50 from Katie Goodburn, who's now in the 1:11 range, where she was a 1:12.58 swimmer before. 1:11.41, she'll be, I hope, totally delighted by that.
Yeah, same with Rosanna down there. It was both the outside lanes that we were looking at doing big personal best time, and shows if you've got a lane, it doesn't matter.
By the way, while I've got a moment to mention it, if you want to get a mention for your club, your coach, or a swimmer, when we get to the 1500, we'll have a little bit of time, not as much because Tim Jones is going to join us, but if you want some mentions for your club, I've got quite a list already, and you can add to that by getting on Twitter and giving me a message at Bob Ballard Sport, and later on we will give them a mention at certain points during the morning. Heat number 5 of the 100 breaststroke for women. Abigail Hurst of Millfield, teammate Lily Booker alongside her. Katie Robertson of South Ayrshire, Katie Matz back again in lane 5 for Stockport Metro. Molly Renshaw of Loughborough, so you'll have worked out by now we're into the cyclically seeded heats. Kayla van der Merwe, who I know Zoe Baker has been working very hard with, and she's been doing some terrific stuff for Winchester this week in 6. Neem Robertson of Mount Kelly, and Charlotte Rigg of City of Birmingham in 8. So who is where at the 50? Our leader is Kayla van der Merwe of Winchester. Second is Molly Renshaw, and third is Katie Matz. Well, this is a terrific swim when Molly Renshaw saying, who is this young upstart? I don't want anybody beating me here, as she comes through. But Kayla is keeping track of her all the way, and they're still head-to-head, and it's going to be a very tight finish between these two.
I would not want to be next to Molly Renshaw down the last 10 metres. As you know, she's got the endurance, but it's a really close race, this. It's good to see these girls going for it this morning.
It's got to be a big PB, surely, for Kayla here. 1:09.09. Certainly is. Over a second better than she has ever been before. Picking up second place behind one of our international stars, Molly Renshaw. I think Molly was a bit surprised by that. Who are you? Should you be there?
It's good to see Molly posting that sort of time, though, as you do associate Molly with the 200. But she's had a couple of days rest, and obviously she did that consideration time that she needs for World. So this can be a really fun event for her, and with that possibility of that 4x1 medley relay team as well, I'm sure she'd love to be part of that.
Heat 6 of 7.
It's good to see Imogen Clark back. She
Yeah.
didn't do the 50. She had a bit of an injury, so she's obviously clearly rested up now and see what she can do this morning.
Jemima Barkley of Monton in 1, 2. Rebecca Clines of Leeds. Jocelyn Elliott of Loughborough in 3. Tatiana Belonigoff of Guildford City in 4. 5, Imogen Clark of Loughborough. 6 is Ankharad Evans of Ellesmere. 7, Hannah Miley. And 8 is Morgan Penny of Surrey. They are just past the 35-metre mark. And we're looking at Imogen Clark, who's, again, not had a swim until today. Her first swim comes on day 6, and she is leading at the 50, ahead of Jocelyn Elliott in 2nd place. 3rd is Tatiana Belonigoff, and 4 is Ankharad Evans of Ellesmere. So this is the moment that Imogen's been waiting for, to get back in there and show exactly what she can do. But Belonigoff's got a time that's quicker than her, 67.84. And also in the mix is Jocelyn Elliott trying to get back in. So there's going to be 3 or 4, all very closely grouped here. So 3 are going to go to the wall pretty much together. And going to go for 3. It is 3. Jocelyn Elliott will be edged out by Tatiana Belonigoff by about 9/100ths of a second in the end. Tatiana getting in at a 1:08.73. So marginally quicker than the previous heat. Jocelyn Elliott in 2nd place. And 3rd going to
Imogen Clark.
Indeed, 1:09.80 for her. Heat number 7 coming next, which is logical because the last one was 6. Rachel Taylor of Newcastle. Oh, our screens have just gone blank again, which indicates we might have a little problem. We'll load the start list in when we can. Got a lady on a mangle working out the back.
Well, this, obviously, Siobhan did the 200 medley last night, so she might be hurting slightly this morning, just not having that rest. Sarah Vasey going next to her in lane 5. Obviously, British champion for the 50 metres, so we know she's got the speed. She's had that couple of days rest, so she'll be ready and raring to go for this one.
Yeah, just a slight... Oh, she's putting a coat on. She's not leaving.
No.
Yeah.
Seem to be having some timing issues this morning on the start.
Siobhan Marie is, like all the others are doing, just making sure they keep ours okay. It's launched now on our screen to our left, so I think that means everything is back operating again. There you go. There's your list of the 7 heat. 8, of course, going in heat 7. Rachel Taylor of Newcastle, Megan Morrison Loughborough, Annabelle Guy Johnson of Edinburgh, Siobhan Marie O'Connor of Bath. In lane number 4, Sarah Vasey of Loughborough in 5, Cara Hanlon of Edinburgh University in 6. 7 is Orla Adams of Aberdeen, and 8, Flora Perkin. Well, let's see how Siobhan has recovered from last night. Emotionally and physically, that was a tough night for her last night.
It really was, but we know that she's got a fantastic start, and we know that she goes out strong as well. So it'll be what she's got left over that 50 metres, but she looks so strong at the minute, and I'm surprised Sarah's not going with her, being that 50 specialist, but I think Sarah wants to stay really controlled, not go out too fast, keep it really smooth, see what these girls have got left in the bag down that second 50.
Starting to join her. Well, she's right on her hips anyway at the moment. Siobhan turns in 31.42. Sarah Vasey 31.89. Cara Hanlon. Let's see how Siobhan, the British record holder, remember, brings this one back. Starting to open up a bit of an advantage now. Sarah Vasey, as we have mentioned, the 50 specialist, will be probably hurting a little bit now because she is pretty much training for the 50, although she is, of course, doing the 100, but associated with the one-length event. Well, Siobhan's going to win this, and she'll win it quite comfortably as well. So her place in the final is assured. Be nice to see her do a nice qualifying time as well. And yeah, that's decent.
Wow.
Very decent at 1:07.27. When you consider that British record for the 100 breaststroke stands at 1:06.34.
I think for any junior athlete looking in, and you mentioned earlier in the week about a few people that watch Michael Jamieson or whatever, for starts and turns, watch Siobhan Marie O'Connor, because her starts, her underwater, her turns, she takes half a body length out of every single other person in the field. And it is one of those that Siobhan is very, very good, but it's not that the others are that bad either.
There's your top 8. Siobhan Mir O'Connor, right down to Imogen Clark. All of those 8 will return if indeed they want to, because obviously there might be some withdrawals today, but Michael Lewis will see those 8 in the open final later on today. The rest will be scattered through transition finals and junior finals later on. Hannah Miley with a 1:11.61. I don't think we'll see again today. I'm not sure if she's done now. Is that her last event?
Unless she's doing the 1500.
Yeah, which I don't think she is. But I wouldn't put it past her, quite frankly. But so that's why we double check, because you can never assume anything with Hannah.
Yeah, no, she's not in that final heat one that will be swam tonight.
No.
So I think that's Hannah Miley done.
Oh, I remember him, James Goddard. I wonder what he's up to these days. Still got a British record, 1:55. I'm going to make a claim that nobody's going to beat it tonight, because it's been one of those weeks where all kinds of strange things have happened. The Greenback's in terrific form, so he might get close. He might get into the 1:55s. Who knows? We'll see him later on. He'll be in the final heat, which is heat number 8 of the 200 backstroke. But here comes the first one, which contains 3, and I'll name them for you. William Ellis of Borough of Stockton's in 3. Alexander Sargent of Millfield is in 4. Mark Ford of City of Glasgow going in lane 5. And they've almost got identical entry times, barring 5 100ths.
Well, Mark's kind of a full body length up just on the first 50.
With a 29 split on that first. Now, has he gone a bit too quick? That's quick, isn't it? 29 for a junior?
Very quick, yeah.
So, getting into his rhythm now, but he has got, as you can see, almost 2 body lengths clear of Alexander Sargent and William Ellis. So you then still on a 2:10.61. So we get an idea of the 100 split here, which is 101. Well, if he doesn't go massive inside 2:10, I'll be surprised if a 101.100.
Yeah. He looks really good here, really good. There is that question, oh, you don't want to take it out too strong, but if you know that you've done that work, he's got a really kind of still head position there. He's kind of dropped off his leg kick a little bit compared to that first 100 metres, and kind of, he is clinging that lane rope. Move away, move away.
Yes, go away. Go away, get in the middle, get in the middle. Kind of want to get out and push him over a little bit, saying, come on, go central.
He is not slowing down, though.
So a 29 first 50, a 101 100, a 134 150. He should be massively inside 2:10. Now, I'm not going to estimate how much, but if he doesn't take 2 to 3 seconds off this, I'll be really surprised.
He's now clinging the other lane rope.
Yeah, it's obviously how it goes sometimes. Maybe that's the way he swims. Oh, he's in this pool, isn't he? So he should know this pool intimately.
Maybe that's his training lane.
Oh, look at this for a time. Look at this for a time. Entered in on a 2:10 and finishes in a 2:07.10. And you know, we have to wait until heat number 5 to see anybody who's done that time. Nobody has done a 2:07.10 until we get to heat number 5 in this one.
Yeah, brilliant morning swim. Maybe that's his lucky lane in training.
Wow, he's won that by a huge margin as well.
Slight personal best for Alexander as well.
Yeah, we don't want to overlook that, but we're talking about a 3.5 second personal best.
And we're assuming he's 16 because that's all we have on our sheets. We don't have date of birth, so he could possibly be 15 because we only have it to the end of the year. So very good for a junior.
2:07.10. I tell you what, I don't think we'll see that beaten in the next 2 heats. Almost certainly we won't with the entry time. But there again, there might be somebody who pops out of the box here that we're not expecting. But yeah, everybody else has got 2:10s, and the next one's 2:09s and 2:08s. He might well hold on to that best time until we get to heat number 4, potentially here. Heat number 2, Moritz Hugers of Windsor, Herbie Kinder of City of Peterborough, Miles Drabwell of City of Milton Keynes, Thomas Beamer of City of Leicester, Toby Stewart of Guildford County, City, of course, Lewis Maxwell of Derwentside, Ross Philp of Staines, and Hubert Godeniak of Plymouth Leander. Well, this one's a much more level playing field in terms of who's doing what, because it's about 7 of them all going to the wall together here. Herbie Kinder is in lane 2 and is at the moment at the top of the order. Miles Drabwell second, Moritz Hugers in third, and Toby Stewart in 4. This is a much more easy-paced race, and also a much more competitive one than the first one was. And of course, we keep saying our backstrokers are now starting to make their move. Nick Pyle in the 50 and the 100, and Luke Green back now in the 100 and the 200. That was an exceptional 100 he did earlier in the week. Really intrigued to see what kind of shape he's in for the 200. He's had to wait a while.
Yeah, and for me as well, for Craig McNally, I want to mention him as well, because he burst on the scene a couple of years ago and then kind of went slightly off the radar a bit, and has always been there or thereabouts. But to make the Worlds and to be making these senior times, the backstroke times are so tough. They're just so competitive that it's just very difficult to even get on the team. So for Craig and Luke, they'll be really wanting to put in some good performances tonight. But I think Luke is just going to be on such a high and just be full of confidence, I think.
Herbie Kinder holding on, but Ross Philp is now his main adversary in lane number 7 in second place. Third is Miles Drabwell, last 50 now. And it's a lovely, steady swim. And he's led for the most part as Herbie Kinder, entering on a 2:10.29. Look at the outside lane there. Look at the top of the picture. The Plymouth Leander swimmer coming through in lane number 8, really finishing strongly here. Not going to quite catch our leader, who will clock 2:08.69 for Herbie Kinder. So that's a big improvement for him as well, from a 2:10 down to a 2:08.6. Second place to Hubert Gedaniek of Plymouth Leander, and Miles Drabwell in third place, but it was still 1.5 seconds slower than Mark Ford went in the opening heat.
Yeah, it was a very impressive swim for an opening heat especially, but again, 2 seconds, you can't fault these guys. I mean, I think all the top 4 there at least probably did personal best. It's gone off my screen too quick, so I can't check the 5th place, but definitely the top 4 all did personal best times by a good way as well.
Excellent. Well, I say our juniors are all progressing, and we'll talk more with Tim Jones about that when he joins us later on, the head of elite development. I think I'm looking at his tweets this week. He's been exceptionally happy with what's been going on.
Luke's brother?
No, that's another one.
Oh.
That's another one, I think, from what I recall. Because that one would be Scottish, wouldn't he? Cockermouth. Oh, yeah. I was thinking of Scotland for some reason. No.
Northwest?
Cockermouth, Scotland.
It's only because you're a southerner. You're a southerner, Bob. That's why you think that.
I was still thinking. Oh, is it?
I'm from the Northwest.
Yeah. You are now.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You are now. You weren't before.
I'm a Mancunian now.
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah, you're an adopted Mancunian, of course. Yep, you still want to work on that accent, though. Robbie Jones in 1, Joshua Skinner of Nova Centurion in 2, Kieran Russer of Sutton Cheam, Nick Skelton of City of Oxford in 4, Ryan Robertson of City of Glasgow in 5, Pierce Greening of Cockermouth, the aforementioned in 6, and Sam Greenbank of Cockermouth in 7, Jonathan Adam of Ellesmere College in lane number 8. Over to you, madam. Oh, she's on the phone now.
Well, no, because I was trying to look at whether it is Luke's. I would assume it is Luke's brother.
I was introduced to him earlier in the week, so I should have remembered that. But, you know, I have a memory like a goldfish.
Well, I will take over this rate. Nicholas Skelton there in lane 4 has just totally taken it out with that minute mark, and lane 8 as well. Jonathan Adam, them two. It's going to be a battle. They won't have to, well, they just won't see each other. You don't see anyone on backstroke anyway, but they might have a sneaky look. But Nicholas is just absolutely taking another body length off Jonathan just on that 50 alone. He is not slowing down. If anything, he's picked up yet again. So he's, well, if he's going out in a minute, he certainly should do under his personal best time of a 2:08.6.
There's a 1:01 split for Mark Ford. He's gone as quick, if not slightly quicker. 1:34. Oh, he's 3 seconds quicker on 150 than Mark Ford was. So if we convert that down, it's going to be a 2:04.
This is incredible.
It is, isn't it? So if we equate the time with what we saw in the first heat, he's on course for maybe a 2:04 here. Certainly a 2:05 anyway. And he's entered on 2:08.66. Is Nick Skelton. This is terrific stuff. Now he's just going to keep it going. 2:05, I think, is in range. 2:04 is in range too.
Wow.
2:04.88. So we do have a fastest time now in heat number 3, and he's won that by how much? How much has he won that by? He's won that
by 3 seconds.
3 seconds, yeah, another 3-second differential. And he was a 2:08.6 lad before. He's now a 2:04.8. Cumbria.
That is incredible because it was only a second that separated them on paper going into that. He has absolutely stormed it. So well done to Nicholas and his coach. Fantastic.
I was almost right. It's Cumbria, which is right on the Scottish border.
Still not Scotland, Bob.
It isn't. But there again, Berwick Rangers.
Dig yourself out.
No. Berwick Rangers, who are in Northumberland, play in the Scottish Football League.
Yeah, but it's still not
but.
Scotland, Bob.
Yeah, but.
Cockermouth is still not in Scotland.
Take
Just trying to justify yourself. Stop being so defensive.
I've got my shovel. I'm just digging. I'll get down to the water mains in just a moment. Heat number 4, Jack Munty of Perth City. 2, Alexander Armstrong of Guildford City. Wickham District's Cameron Brooker in 3, Aaron Bostock of the Pioneer Club in 4, Thomas Clare of Team Ipswich in 5, Leo Saragins of City of Birmingham in 6, Joe Watt of Glasgow in 7, and Mark Edmondson of Team Bath. Well, we're seeing some amazing times this morning. Got Mark Ford going down for a 2:10 to 2:07. We've got Nick Skelton going from a 2:08 to a 2:04. What's going to happen in this one? It's a bit unpredictable. Unpredictable in the good sense, of course, that we're seeing massive, and we're talking about massive PBs in this event this morning. Cameron Brooker's had a good start for Wickham District in 3. So at the top of your picture, there's a swimmer in lane number 6, Leo Saragins of Birmingham. And one of those two is going to turn first. It is Cameron Brooker of Wickham, marginally ahead of Saragins. And then Mark Edmondson at the 50 split with Alexander Armstrong in 4th place. But from that outside smoker in 8, he's going particularly well at the moment, is Mark Edmondson of Team Bath. And in the lane 3, it is Cameron Brooker. I think this is Mark Edmondson's first swim. I think he's got Mark Skimming as coach at Team Bath.
It's a very long time to wait, isn't it?
And he turns at a 1:01, so pretty much on course for what we saw from Mark Ford. And his best time prior to today was a 2:08. So again, he's looking to be immensely quicker than that. 59.9 for Cameron Brooker at that turn. And away he goes. And Mark Edmondson on the front, 50 and 100. He could get the old tray of drinks on his chest and it wouldn't move at all, would it? Cameron Brooker in a 1:32 he turns in.
Really lovely turns as well, using that underwater, and he's just got a really lovely backstroke, doesn't it? It just looks like he's got on going
and
for a
he's in the
Sunday
centre
swim.
of his lane. He's in the centre of his lane.
Very
Perfect
good.
position. Not near the left lane rope, not near the right lane rope. He's absolutely dead centre. No worries about catching as he goes through.
No.
And
Mark is doing well in lane 8 as well.
he is. And it'll be good times for both of them, I tell you. 2:04.41. These are massive improvements today in this event. And a 2:06 compared to a 2:08 for Mark Edmondson. He's taken his time down by a couple of seconds. Oh, that hurt a bit, I think. But it doesn't matter. When he sees the time, as he probably already has done, that will relieve the suffering and the pain, because 2:04.41 means that we've got our fastest swim of the morning now from Cameron Brooker.
His technique was incredible as well, and that's what I love to see from these juniors as well, is kind of the fact that the clubs, and you've mentioned all week about some of the smaller clubs, and the fact that they've really come through and really shone with kind of just excelling in technique, using their turns, using that underwater. That's what we want to see.
On to heat number 5, one away from the cyclically seeded heats when we get to likes of Brodie Williams and Craig McNally, and of course Luke Greenbank as well. This is the lineup for heat number 5. Ben Harrison of Mount Kelly, Benjamin Stagg of Loughborough, Max Jameson of Thanet, Keir Edgar of the First Club, Reyes Worley of Plymouth, Daniel Jenkins of City of Oxford, Thomas Thornley of Loughborough, and Simon Clement of City of Sheffield. Now they're all grouped around about the 205, 206s. Simon Clement's got a 207, but everybody else around about that mark at the moment. The best start coming from lane number 2, Benjamin Steig of Loughborough, off to a real flyer.
This, I think we're going to start to see now maybe the field even out slightly a little bit here, as we've seen such huge chunks taken off, and we've seen that kind of burst on the scene that one person's been out on their own. So it looks pretty even. They're not dropping anyone just yet.
No, and we've got the majority, but they're all under 30 seconds. Every single swimmer there under 30 seconds at the turn. Daniel Jenkins 29.09, Reyes Worley in second place, so that's a very even first 50. It'll open out a bit now on the second, or at least it should do anyway.
I think we're seeing these, they'll have been in the call room and they're seeing these previous swims going, hold on, what's happening here?
Well, quite, exactly. That means that they are going to have to find a lot more from their PBs to be in consideration for any of the finals later on today. Turn in 60.4 for Daniel Jenkins of the City of Oxford, entering in on 205.97. Second is Benjamin Steig of Loughborough University, and third, Plymouth Leander's Reyes Worley. But those two have first clear in 1 and 2, in lanes 2 and 6. Benjamin Steig and Daniel Jenkins. Jenkins looking good. It was Steig with that good start, but Jenkins has had the better of the middle part of the race and leads at the moment. 132 he goes over, 133 for Steig, and Simon Clement up to third with a 134.
Wow, well, Benjamin has got fantastic turns. I mean, I think he went 10 metres off that wall. It's absolutely incredible. They won't be able to see each other at all, so it's literally going to be who can hold on, who can really push it into that wall, who can spot their finish as well, as the backstroke finish is always a really tough one to get your head around.
Last few metres for them, and it's going to be tight, probably just on the far side. Jenkins, yes, gets there by 17/100ths of a second. And that's a 2:05.72, which is about a quarter of a second better than he has been before. Benjamin Steig with a 2:05.89, and he's inside the 2:06s for the very first time in second place. So all the winners, pretty much all the top threes in all of these events, are going faster than ever before. Not the case with Keir Edgar here, but the top two certainly with new personal bests. Right, some names you'll be familiar with coming up next in the 200 backstroke. Jane Elliott will be going for the City of Sheffield in 3. Brodie Williams from Millfield. That's the full lineup. Just checking with the, I think, is he doing the 200 as well? Yeah, Jay's doing the 200 free as well later on.
They're not too easy events,
No,
are they?
200 back, 200 free. There will be a swim off in the 100 breast. Wow. After the 200 free. For the last place in the junior final. So swim off in the 100 breast. Ooh, that hurts just saying it, let alone doing it. Heat number 6 of the 200 backstroke. Some big names in here. Ben Campbell-James of Loughborough. William Riley of Bath University. Jay Elliott of Sheffield. Brodie Williams of Millfield. James McFadden of Loughborough, Jacob Greenup of Bath University, Michael Rees of Nova Centurion, and Harry Noble of Mount Kelly. So yeah, quite a double for Jay this morning to do the 200 backstroke and the 200 free.
It hurts the 200 backstroke, and I can't explain why, but your legs just feel like jelly when you get out. I think almost having I think with the breathing, it's difficult because you think, oh, you're taking on lots of oxygen because your head and your face is out of the water, but you're not. To breathe with that splash, it's really difficult, and your legs just start to feel like jelly-like. So the fact that he's only got, what, half an hour before he's back in?
Yeah, probably that. It's not a great deal more than that, is it? In between times, 100 butterfly in between, then 200 free. But he's leading at the moment. He's leading at the halfway stage, 58.53 for Jay. It's not an event to say he does all that often. He's entered in on a 2:02.26. Probably is his best. He's looking really good, though. I know he's been working on his backstroke technique quite a bit, and they have been doing that in training quite a bit. And he's beating somebody who's actually gone 3 seconds quicker than he, Brodie Williams, in the adjoining lane.
Well, Jay's got lovely turns as well when you watch his underwater. it's so strong, so effortless, and his backstroke just looks really easy. That nice still head that we keep talking about.
Spots the wall brilliantly there too.
It's not choppy, is it, his stroke? It's really relaxed, really smooth, really in control. I mean, he just got, I reckon he went 11, 12 metres there underwater.
Well, I say I've got 2:02.2 down as his best. It probably is that, but this is looking very comfortable. This is where it's going to hurt a little bit, and obviously this is where Brodie Williams probably will start to work his way back towards Jay. But Jay's got this race absolutely nailed, and got it nailed by about 2 body lengths, to be honest. Is he going to get around 2 minutes? That's got to be a PB. It's got to be a PB. 2:00.23. J-Boy, I take my hat off to you, mate. That's a fantastic swim. Brodie Williams in second place. God, give us a smile, mate. Yeah, he's happy with that.
Well, the fact that Brodie Williams, well, he's got an entry time of 1:58, he took 2 seconds off Brodie there, Jay did. That was a really good swim.
No,
He's happy. He's happy. He's nodding.
Go and have a good recovery session, mate, because you've got 203 coming shortly. It's good to see a smile back on his face. He burst on the scene with a 1500 free time. Remember that? And people think, here's the future 1500 freestyle swimmer. He ain't doing that anymore. He's not doing the 8 here either, though he's not taking that out of his program totally. Basically concentrating on 4. But I think he wants to do a range of things.
I think it's hard when you get older as well. I mean, he's 24 now. You do tend to swim down the program. If you start us off in distance, we see it all the time that it's very hard on your body to kind of stick at that level of doing that amount of meterage. So it's really, really wise that he's come down, and this could be one of those that he thinks, you know what, there's potential in this for next year. I could make that team at it.
So he'd be looking, because the 15's not on his program anymore. The 8's kind of dabbling with it these days, I think.
Well, no lanes 2 or 3, Bob.
So Elliot Clogg's not doing this one. Joe Litchfield, though, is back, of course, fresh from the 200 IM, finishing 3rd last night
No lane
in
2.
that. 4 is Craig McNally. 5 is Daniel Cross. 6 is Daniel Hall. 7 is Oliver Fairman of Poole, and 8 is Scott Gibson of Edinburgh University. Yes, we're starting to lose a few, of course, at the back end of the week. But we saw just how good Joe was on the 100. Let's see what his 200's like.
Well, Joe's going to kind of feel like this is a bit of a training swim with 2 empty lanes next to him, but it's one of those that we know his backstroke is good. He looked great in that 100. He did obviously race last night, getting on that podium, getting that bronze medal, so might be slightly hurting, but I think he'll be running off adrenaline, want to be post a good time, because I'm pretty certain he'll want to be in that mix for that open final tonight.
In terms of entry times, only one through, and that's Craig McNally in lane 4, has been sub-2. That's only entry time, so it may not be their career best times, but that's what's entered in. And Joe's having an excellent first 100. They're all quite tight, the top 3. Only one going under the minute, though, is Daniel Cross. Daniel Hall in second place. And at the moment, where's Craig McNally? He's starting to work his way through now.
Yeah, all 4 are pretty much in a line here. You'll probably see Craig start to pick this up, and I think Craig always swims like that. He always looks really, really easy and brings it back strong. It'll be difficult for Joe, because obviously won't kind of know what those boys are doing in the middle lane, but I think he'll just try and stick to his own race. But Craig is really coming through now.
Yep, back half of the race is where he comes strong, and he's gone to the front of the field ahead of Daniel Hall. Joe's finding it a bit hard now, backing up that 200 IM from last time, but he's still in the mix. He's still very much there and could still get second place, and suddenly, as I say that, he's getting a second or third wind and is working his way through. But this will be all about Craig McNally, hopefully going sub 2 minutes. Be very surprised if he's not right on that. It's going to be 2:00.21. So that is, I think, a little bit quicker than Jay. Just checking back. Only 2 100s quicker, though. But that is the fastest time of the morning. Joe Litchfield with a 2:02.97. Entered on 2:05, but I think he's probably gone quicker than that. 3rd, Daniel Hall. We are getting a DQ, unfortunately, so somebody's going to go. It might be Joe. We don't know yet. We'll wait for confirmation of that. So that time of 2:0, I think, would be a potential personal best. It's entered on a 2:05.2. But somebody, I'm afraid, is not going to have a time registered against their name. Craig McNally, I think, is safe. 2:00.21. No clarification yet on who the DQ will be on, but there is one coming. There was a swimmer who exceeded the, oh, it is, here it comes. Confirmed now that Joe Litchfield exceeded his 15 underwater, unfortunately. Wasn't even tight, apparently. Not even a close one.
It's one of those that I never understand why they don't do kind of like almost like a flags, but just where it's just not the red, obviously dip down flag bit, but just like a rope almost, just so the guys can see it. It's very difficult when you've just got this marker in the water, but that's what training's for and to practice it.
Yeah, so we won't be seeing Joe back today. We will see Craig McNally, however. Now,
no lane 5, Bob.
no Castelli. Xavier has decided not to do it today, but Luke Greenbank is doing it today. And he'll be in lane 4. Jacob Davis of City of Birmingham in 1. Joseph Small, Swansea University in 2. Charlie Hutchison of Ellesmere College in 3. 4 is Luke Greenbank of Loughborough. Charlie Brown of Sheffield had a good week. Some PBs along the way. Jack Shillinglaw of Loughborough University in 7. Oliver O'Halloran back again from Dermot side in lane number 8. So, Luke, what you got for us in the 200? Well, he's got a great start, I can tell you that much, and he's already taken a body length out of the rest of the field off the start.
Yeah, well, we know he's got the speed, don't we, Bob? We know that he did a really good 100. So the fact that he's kind of been in that call room, seeing all these other boys making huge personal best times with both Jay and Craig posting those 2-minute times as well. He'll be wanting to get one of the centre lanes for tonight, so he knows that he can't totally take his foot off the gas here. He has got to work this, but not give too much, as obviously he'll want to progress in the final tonight.
It's very smooth, it's very economical, it's very methodical. If you look at him and Charlie Brown, who is going well, look at the amount of splash that Charlie Brown is creating off his stroke. There's barely any from Luke at all. There's tiny bits of water coming off him, whereas Charlie is working hard, and there's just so much more water surrounding him, whereas Luke looks like he's kind of gliding through the water.
Yeah, and Luke's obviously very experienced now. He's one of the senior athletes, and I really like with some of the kind of the senior athletes is looking at their underwater as well. They're really utilising that time. Obviously, Joe a little bit too much, but at the same time, it is really nice to watch, and we'll see on his turn here how far he goes underwater, because they're not just popping up at 5 metres.
Haven't got anybody under 2 yet. I think we will now, because I think Luke is definitely on course for a sub-2 here. And Charlie Brown probably on course for a big personal best as well. He's got a 2:02.5, is a registered best time, and also starting to make his way back is Charlie Hutchison of Ellesmere College, but our camera quite rightly is trained on Luke Greenbank, because he's the one who's going to win this and win it by a sizable margin. Come on, we need an under 2, massively under 2, don't worry about that. 157. Wow. hello. 157.51. Charlie Brown with a 2:02.73, so just outside his best, but not by much. He's going to have a chance to rectify that. Oh, look, that was superb, yeah.
And tonight in the final, Bob, they've got to go 155.5 or a 156.2 to make that world's team. But he's certainly on track for that. I mean, that looks really comfortable. I hope he's not given too much this morning, but a 157.5.
What do they have to go tonight? 155, what?
So for the first place, so if he wins, obviously, which it looks like he could do, he's got to go 155.5 and a consideration time of a 156.2.
155.5 is James' British record.
It is. And I'm sure he would love to watch it go.
There's your top 10. It's a joint 7th, but don't worry, there's no swim off in this one because Jack Shillinglaw is in 7th, so all 8 of those will go through as of right to the open final later on. Looking forward to that and looking forward to seeing what he can do, because he's into 157.4. 157.5 was his heat swim. Good stuff, Luke. Been waiting for Luke to put in performances like this for a while now, because he was such a good junior, world junior champion he was. And you kind of think, push on from here, and he hasn't really. This might be an example that his time has arrived again.
I also think as well, we haven't actually spoken about it this week, Bob, is the fact that actually that transition from junior to senior is a tough one, because actually you have got your education. People have ambitions outside of the swimming pool. Everyone just thinks, well, everyone's just training, that's all they're doing. But not. Some of these guys have got jobs. Some of them, most of them are at college or university. They've got other things going on in their life, and that, of course, comes into play.
Women's 100 butterfly, first of 8 heats. I'm going to bring to you Sophie Yendel. Again, another of those names that thinking, how many events have you done this week? is in 3. Sasha Thomas of City of Norwich in 4. Olivia Cattery of Newcastle goes in 5. You saw that Alan Gandy time, which again has been on the books for a long, long time now in the 100 butterfly. See if any of these can get around the minute mark. When we look through, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 who've got entry times under the minute mark. But it's a case of trying to get down below 104 for these 3. Closest to us, Sophie Yendall went on her way from City of Derby to doing so. It'd be nice if we could get at least 2, if not all 3, under that 104 today. And
Sasha's coming back really strong.
She is,
here.
from City of Norwich. And in fact, she might go on and win this. She's looking the stronger at the finish. She might get there first. Does. 103.64. It's interesting in butterfly. You look at see how people are finishing, and you just think, you've got the momentum, you've got the propulsion, you're probably going to come through and win this. And that's what she just did.
Yeah, and about spotting that finish as well. We've seen it at a senior level as well. We've seen it at major championships, people gliding in or shortening and doing a really short stroke and banging their hands on those pads. So it's much nicer when we get to see something that is just a smooth, nice finish.
100 fly, heat 2. 7 in there, if they are all in there, and they
Yep.
seem to be. Melody Jones of Borough Stockton, Emily Ford, City of Oxford, Laura Dickinson, down as a 14-year-old from Lincoln Vulcans. In 3, Imogen Mears of Bromley, although there's Bromley swimmers that we've been talking about this week. Jessica McDonough of Stockport Metro 5, May Bradburn of Chelmsford, and Henrietta Damassa of Ellesmere College in lane number 7, no one down on our sheet as 14. So let's see how this one unwinds. All of them with 64 times. Best on paper, 64.08 from Imogen Mears. But if it's going the way it has gone this week, then Imogen Mears, like all the Bromley swimmers here, will be doing a big personal best, but not leading at the turn. Leader is Laura Dickinson. Mears is 3rd, Emily Ford in between them. The yellow cap of Laura Dickinson of Lincoln Vulcans, if not the youngest swimmer in the field, certainly one of the youngest swimmers in the field. So we're looking for potential. Here is potential. Now, 64.13 was her entry time. Well, she's going to be inside that. How much inside that? We'll find out in just a few moments' time. But it's a big PB.
Oh, big gliding.
Yeah, it could have been an even bigger PB if she's not taken the glide. But nonetheless,
Great swim.
it's still a great swim.
That was a gutsy swim as well, because she took it out there. She kind of went for it. It's kind of hard to do that on the butterfly because people just tend to call back and you dive very quickly on the butterfly, don't you? We often talk about that elephant or that piano or hippo, whatever's big, just falling on your back and just really struggling down that last 25.
103.82.
Didn't James Guy describe his 200 butterfly as a drowning hippo?
Yes. Yeah, I like the hippo analogy. I think it works quite well.
With no lane 4 or 6 in this one.
Yeah, they're dropping like flies. Isabel Goodwin of City of Leeds in 1-2. Ella Chown of South Bournemouth. Samantha Diaz of City of Leicester in 3-5. Is Krista Wilson of Newcastle 7. Catherine Russell of City of Leeds. And from Aberdeen Performance, it's Anya Slesser, looked after by the performance squad run by Patrick Miley. Now, who's going to do what here? Krista Wilson's doing quite a bit for Newcastle at the moment. She will lead at the turn in 29.22. Second place is Isabel Goodwin. Ella Chown in 3rd. Very strong first 50 from the Newcastle one. Needs to bring it back, needs to back it up as she can, but Isabel Goodwin's coming back at her from Leeds, and Ella Chown from Bournemouth as well. But is this going to be a front-running lane 4 victory for, well, lane 5 in this case, Krista Wilson, Newcastle? She's going for it. Well, look at lane 1. She is going really well, isn't she?
I think she's going to win this, Isabel.
She's going to take it. She is going to take it in 1:02.81. And that's, again, well, a second PB. She's gone over a second, 1.10 to be absolutely precise.
Oh, she seems pretty happy with that as well.
Happy with that? Well, you should be, shouldn't you? Over a second better than she's ever swum before. Krista Wilson, our leader for so long there, with a 1:03.2, and even though it's not a massive improvement, it's 8/100ths in the right direction. Ella Chow, 104.17. Just a bit slower than she has been before, but top 2 there with new PBs. Heat number 4. Now we'll check across again, see if
All here.
everybody is there.
All here.
All here. All present and correct. Eleanor Cowan of Wickham. There's your lineup on screen. I'll just run through them for you in a more leisurely way. Serena Iaguaram of City of Glasgow. Abby Jackson of Crawley. Isabel Jones, University of Stirling. Laura Brantley from Camden Swiss Cottage in 5. 6 is City of Peterborough's Mia Leach. Alicia Stevenson, City of Birmingham in 7. And 8 is Lucy Grieve of South Ayrshire. And she's got off to a terrific start on the far side, but so too in lane 3 has Abby Jackson of Crawley. In fact, they're all pretty much in the line. The only one who's not quite in line with them, it would seem, is the Glasgow swimmer in 2, but everybody else go to the wall pretty much together, including Abby Jackson, who gets her just ahead of the others by 7/100ths of a second from Lucy Grieve. Mia Leach in 3rd place, 4th, but you can see that's only 0.2 of a second separating 1 to 4. And lane 8 going for broke. Of course, you don't really get a good sight of what's happening to your left-hand side, so she's just going for it, as indeed is Abby Jackson of Crawley. And she will get to the wall before everybody else in time of... well, actually, no, Lucy Grieve got it on the far side. 102.36. So snuck through there ahead of Abby Jackson by 8/100ths of a second. 102.36. Yep, that's a new personal best and a sizable one too. Abby Jackson with a 102.44, half a second better than she has been before. And Isabel Jones of University of Stirling with a 103.26. So you can see the heats will come in heat 6 onwards. So last of the ones prior to that coming next. Jessica Podger of Millfield. Kate Clifton of Sheffield. Then we've got 2 Sheffield swimmers actually. Amy Bell's in there as well in 4. Sheffield well represented. Cardiff represented by Ciara Morris. Eleanor Dooley of Colchester, another Welsh swimmer from Nofio Clwyd. Elena Morgan in 6. Sarah Kalafska of Hatfield in 7. And Emma Rosen of Stockport Metro is in lane number 8, heat number 5 of the 100 butterfly. And what a start this is from Kate Clifton of Sheffield. She is really going for it off the first 50 and already has about half a body length to a body length clear of everybody else in the field.
Yeah, you've got to be a gutsy swimmer to go out that fast, haven't you? But you know what? If you do the speed work, if you know that you've got it in the bag, I really, really credit people who take it out there. We spoke to James Guy earlier in the week, and he was like, you know what? I take every race out strong, because I think that's the way to do it. And it works for him. And you've got to know you as an athlete and what works for you and the way that you like to swim. Unlike Freya Anderson, we know that she likes to come back very, very strong.
I think that's why the 400 doesn't suit James much these days, because he tried to swim it like that, didn't he? He tried to swim it like that at the Olympic Games and just take it out, and kind of died the last 100.
Yeah, it's very, very brutal to take it out that way, but it works for James in other events.
And the win goes to Amy Bell. It's a Sheffield 1-2 as well, 102.10. So a little move in the right direction for Amy Bell. And second place, Kate Clifton with a 102.38, our early leader. And she too has improved on her time. So they'll both be, I'm sure, delighted to be moving in the right direction. Emma Rosen of Stockport Metro with a 102.62. So we can say all 3 of the top 3 do personal bests.
I'm looking forward to seeing what Laura Stevens has got here. She had a fantastic 200 metres.
And
Betsy Wizard.
Yeah, Betsy's back in lane 6 for Northampton.
Pia Murray's had a great week as well. There's some really good names in this one.
There are. Jane Brown of Newcastle, Yasmin Perry, Aberdeen Performance, Isabel Grant, Sheffield, Harriet Jones of Cardiff, Laura Stevens of Plymouth Leander, Betsy Wizard of Northampton, Pia Murray of Ellesmere College, and Alicia Wilson of Guildford City. And look at lane 4 go. Harriet Jones of City of Cardiff is not hanging around, nor is Laura Stevens of Plymouth Leander, and they're going to go to the wall pretty much together. Laura will just get there first. There's about a couple of tenths of a second between her and Harriet Jones. Third place, Alicia Wilson. 4 is Isabel Grant. And you're seeing exactly what he wanted to see here, I think, Becky, from Laura Stevens. Really backing it up, but she is being tracked all the way by Harriet Jones. Harriet Jones and Laura Stevens having a good old battle here. I love these kind of heat swims where neither wants to give an inch. They don't. Going, I want to win this. No, I want to win this. And they get to the last 15. It's going to be just the Plymouth Leander swimmer getting there first. 59.82 for our winner. And second place going to Harriet Jones. She goes under the minute mark as well with a 59.97.
I think to break that minute mark in the heats, you can't ask for much more than that, can you? With having that open final tonight. And the 100 butterfly, I think, is really interesting one. As it is one of those that you have got the relay opportunity at the big ones. We've seen Georgia Davis go the backstroke. We've seen Freya Anderson do the freestyle. Today we're going to see the other two make up that relay team. Siobhan had a great 100 meters breaststroke, and she's already on the team as well. So who can get that spot for that butterfly on the relay?
Is it going to be Alice Thomas, maybe? Or could it be Charlotte Atkinson, who goes in the next heat?
Well, no lane 1.
No, she put up another one. But 2 is Isabel Spinley. Kiana McInnes in 3. Alice Thomas in 4 for Swansea. 5 is Emily Large of Newcastle. Maisie Elliott of City of Leicester. Jasmine McRae of Poole. And Megan Allison of the City of Newport in 8. Now look at Kiana as Alice Thomas go in lane number 4. She is not hanging around. She is going for this big time. Can she take anybody else with her, though? Terrific work by Alice Thomas, who's got this race won at, well, she had it won at 50, really, but she's certainly got it won now. And trying to keep track of her is Emily Large to her right-hand side, another member of the, well, she was a member, of course, of the Wales Commonwealth Games team with Alice, and Emily was a member of the England team, and then the Gold Coast last year. But Alice Thomas is saying, I'm not hanging around. I want to be at the wall nice and early. Thank you very much. 58.70, not far outside her personal best either. And Emily Large doesn't quite get under the minute mark, 60.15. Might be a little bit disappointed with that, but certainly Alice Thomas won't be. And that was a very, very good heat swim, and a very determined one as well.
Yeah, she wanted to kind of blow those couple of ups away. She's had a couple of days rest now. And she looked fantastic over the 100. We constantly say the 200 is her better event. But she looked really smooth there, really in control. Didn't look like she worked too hard. It wasn't a slog down that second 50 at all. And she's got lovely turns, Alice does.
So on to the final heat of the 100 butterfly for women. Best time by quite some way. Alice Thomas is 58.13. Everybody, I think, is climbing aboard, so we can give you the 8 who will be involved. Kate Mills of Loughborough University, Sophie Freeman of Plymouth, then there'll be a couple of Loughborough swimmers in 3 and 4 as well. Harriet West, Charlotte Atkinson, Tane Bruce of Edinburgh, Kiara Schlossen in 6 for City of Leeds, Ellesmere College in 7 for Freya Anderson, she's back again. And 8 is Emily Hames of Mount Kelly. We'll look at lane 4, and we'll probably look at lane 4 all the way through. Charlotte Atkinson of Loughborough looking to add to her 50 success.
They're going with her, though.
They are. She'll lead at the 50, but not a massive margin between her and Tane Bruce. Freya Anderson in 3rd place. 4th is Kiara Schlossen of Leeds. This is not quite as clear-cut as it was for Alice Thomas in the previous one, but it should still be a win for Charlotte Atkinson, though they're not letting her go. Tane Bruce isn't at the top of the picture. Freya Anderson is right in the mix as well. But Charlotte with her head down, heading for the wall, is going to get there probably maybe a body length clear of the rest. And here she comes in a 59.01. Didn't look anywhere near as comfortable as Alice Thomas did in the previous heat, though. 2nd is Freya Anderson with a 59.54. Is that the first time she's been below the minute? It is. Yes, it is. First time she's been under 60 seconds, Freya Anderson. And 3rd is Tane Bruce, 59.93. It is going to be a very tight race, and I wouldn't have put Freya in the mix. I think you're going to have to now.
Yeah, well, there's been quite obviously a few girls breaking that minute marker, but for me, Alice just looks so in control. It didn't seem like it was hard work at all for her.
It was terrific, and Freya looked very good indeed. I think with a bit of speed to spare, actually, to be honest. So we'll see what she can do tonight. That she might be the surprise packet in the final.
She always comes back so strong, and it just gives us a heart attack.
There's the 8. Emily Large just sneaking in. She didn't go as quick as I thought she might, so she just sneaks in there. But look, 6 of them under a minute for the final tonight. Harriet West and Emily Large just getting there over the minute. Kiara Slauson not quite getting there, and the rest will be involved in either the transition final or potentially the junior final, depending on their age, of course. But yeah, I'd have to say, if you asked me to bet, and I probably wouldn't on that race anyway, Alice Thomas just looking supreme.
Yeah, she was kind of nearly a second ahead of the rest of the field there. And we saw her swim a really good 200 butterfly heat as well. And then Laura Stevens kind of stormed the final. I think surprised Alice that she was so close to her. So I'm sure that final will kind of bring an interesting one tonight, and not as clear-cut, but she just looked fantastic there. And obviously Alice has already got that consideration time. So she's one of those possibilities for that medley relay that we've been speaking about as well.
On to the 200 free. Now, this is an intriguing event because there are just so many good 200 freestylers here. We know we're the world champions in the 4x2, have been for the last 2 world championships. So we know we've got so much depth in the 200 free, but so much so there will be a major casualty or two potentially for the final tonight who won't make it.
Yeah, we've been talking about all week has been people doing personal best times and how great it is in the heats, but we've not seen as many of those been the seniors, where they're going to have to this morning. If they want that spot in the open final, they are going to have to swim quick.
Missing from the lineup, we have no lane 5, but everybody else is there. Eugene Brooks-Clark of City of Sheffield, Lewis Binning of Basildon, Thomas Watkin of Royal Wolverhampton, Greg Fairburn of Bells Hill, and Warren DeBath's Sonny Kennedy, all around the 1:57, 1:56 mark in terms of their entry time. So looking for somebody to break out of that pack in the 200 freestyle and give themselves a chance of making that world and European junior team for those who are in that age group that all of these are for later on in the year, and obviously just try and bring down their best times if they possibly can. I'm being told it's the best event on the program. I think the 200 breast is the best event on the program, but there you go. Men's 200 breast gets me out of my chair.
I think it's though. I think obviously on the 200 breaststroke, the quality is incredible, but it was just Ross and James. Whereas here we have got 3 or 4. You've kind of got what the guys have on the 200 breaststroke with the 2 of them, plus another 2.
Yeah.
It's just the depth here is so strong. And I think it's one of those that we always talk about the men's medley relay, the men's medley relay, the men's medley relay. Yet the men's 4x2 is incredible as well. And it kind of gets overlooked more because obviously...
Do you know, the Aussies hate this more than anything else, that we are so strong in the 4x2 men. They hate it.
Well, of course they do. We're good at it. And it's great for the juniors as well. It really pushes them on, and it kind of encourages them. I'm sure at World Juniors and European Juniors, they're going to want to have good relay teams as well, as we've always had so much depth in this event.
Look at this from Thomas Watkin of Royal Wolverhampton. He's about to set a new massive personal best in a 1:54.71. So a couple of seconds knocked off his previous best there. And second place was Eugene Brooks-Clark from Sheffield. And again, heading in the right direction for him as well.
Well, we've got some really interesting juniors here, because obviously we'll come to the seniors, but you've got William Bell, who did that massive personal best in the men's 800 last night and getting that world and junior time. We've got people like Archie Goodburn, who we've talked about this week already. Then you've got Jacob Whittle, who broke
I'm intrigued to see what he's going to do.
On the 100, breaking that kind of fastest man ever in history over the 100 metres. I'm interested to see what he could do on the 200. So we've got some really exciting juniors.
Yeah, so am I. And he comes up in the next heat. He'll be in lane 1 in heat number 3. The fastest 14-year-old in the world. Incredibly, we have him here. And we'll see him in the 200. He did that almost 50-second dead time in the 100. And we'll see what he can do in the 200. This is Lewis Maxwell in 1. Alexander Hendel of Birmingham 2, Liam McLaughlin of Warrender 3, Herbie Kinder, City of Peterborough 4, 5, Rhys Housden of Hatfield, Hector Pardo of Ellesmere College 7, Ben Cope, Royal Wolverhampton, Finlay Saunders of Heart of Midlothian in lane 8. Hector Pardo with the early lead, but only by 0.05 over Ben Cope. Rhys Housden in third, Finlay Saunders in fourth. And this is a really, really competitive event. Yeah, it certainly is the most competitive event, I think, on the programme.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I love watching this event. I do love the breaststroke boys just as much as you do, Bob. But for me, this is the event on the programme that gets me out of my chair, that gives me goosebumps, that I almost sometimes, I can't watch this event. I have to put my hands over my eyes because I get so nervous watching this event.
Hector Pardo then, just ahead of Ben Cope. And the others are coming back to him, though. He hasn't got an unassailable lead. It'll be 50 to go, of course, when he turns next time. But they're all trying to work their way back to our leader, who is looking strong, is Hector Pardo. But Rhys Housden's coming back. Herbie Kinder's coming back. And obviously on the far side, it's very tight between Pardo and Cope, as indeed it was at 50. So it is at 150. Less than half a second separates Pardo and Cope.
Well, they've both got entry times of 1:56s, so they'll be wanting to get close to that.
Yeah, well, they're going to be close and inside it without too much doubt. I think 1:55 is in the offing for both Ben Cope and for Hector Pardo here. 1:55 almost certainly, maybe a 1:54 potentially here for both of them.
Yes.
1:54.24 for Ben Cope, who just got to the wall first, only marginally by 0.06 of a second. But that, again, we are talking about huge chunks taken off their previous best times. 1:54.2, 1:54.3 for Ben Cope, Hector Pardo. Liam McLaughlin in third with a 1:57, just a little bit slower than he's been before, but the top two with massive improvements.
Well, we keep talking about the fact that the boys have got to go quick to make the open final. The guys have got to go quick to make the transition final and to make the junior final, so not any of these can hang about.
Just checking to make sure Jacob Whittle was going to be there after he'd given the big build-up, and indeed he is. There he is, closest to your camera.
I want to see if he does that. Oh, he has. He's done that funny start thing. He kind of bangs his foot against the wedge. It's his little tradition, I think.
Jacob Whittle, Davencio, 14 years of age, fastest swimmer in the 100 free in the world at his age. Daniel Johnson, Royal Wolverhampton. Davide Arioli of Millfield. Adam Metcalf, Ellesmere College. Sam Daly, Mount Kelly. Finn Nicol, Royal Wolverhampton. Hugh Williams of Millfield. Ethan Raymond of Plymouth Leander. And Jacob's right up there. Jacob leads. 26.32 is the turn. Hello, hello. What is we're going to see from Jacob? Is he going to be one of those who could potentially get close to the open final? It's too much really shoot at 14 to ask him to get there. And he's maybe not going to be leading at 100 anyway, because Finn Nicol is coming right back through. But it's a very impressive display from Jacob Whittle in one.
Well, we don't know what he's like when he turns, do we, and how much endurance he's got. So this is the first time we've seen him here, and he looked really, really smooth to 100 there. He's just picking up his leg kick now. He's really turned those legs on, because down that first 50, he was hardly kicking at all.
Well, this is mightily impressive, a 14-year-old. You've got to say, there's almost shades of Ian Thorpe about this.
Yeah, he doesn't quite have the same technique, does he? He's kind of not got that nice high elbow stroke, but he's got this real rhythm. He's got a kind of really strong leg kick. He's obviously the underwater phase of his stroke is really powerful, really strong for a 14-year-old, because we talk about, especially with the men, developing with power and strength as they get older. Yet he is 14 years of age. Now,
I'd love to see him go on and win this. Not that I think he gets the others in this race, but just to say that Jacob Whittle has put down a big marker here. 1:56.10. His legs are going like pistons now behind him. 1:56.10 prior to today. Well, forget that. Forget 1:56. Forget 1:55. Forget 1:54. 1:53.03. Thank you very much. Job done. Jacob Whittle. Second is Daniel Johnson, who is 2 seconds behind him. And third place, we are seeing a star. We are seeing a star, and you're seeing him right now. If he continues in the sport, we hope he will. At 14 years of age, this guy is a phenomenon.
He is. And you know what? He's got such a good coach with Jamie Main as well. He's in the right hands there. He's got a great programme around him. And he's got so much to work on as well. We've talked about his start and other things as well. So he's got such a bright career ahead of him, because that is just incredible. He was so close to a 52 as well. And to be honest, he had no one near him.
We have a delay on the result, which I hope is not a DQ.
Well,
oh, it's confirmed. It's confirmed. It's confirmed. It's okay. I think we're okay. I'm hearing it's confirmed, so don't get too. We'll just look at the backup to make sure everything's all right. But 153.03 from 156.10.
Well,
3 second PB. I know he's at that age, and people will say, yeah, well, you should be getting drop downs at that age, but
not at 14 and posting it. Yes, drop downs, but not at the 153 standard. That's incredible. And
right. Result is confirmed. So I was just had my heart in my mouth for a moment, thinking, oh, no, don't take our magic moment away from us there.
Well, I'm very interested to see what Jacob will do tonight, because he will have more of a race on him. Hopefully the other guys will be able to push him on tonight. He was on his own there.
He did improve in the 100, of course, not by much, but when he did the 100 from heat to final, he did improve a little bit. So that'll be encouraging. There he is, just taking it all in.
No lane 4 in this one, Bob.
So we can scratch 4. Joshua Williams of Wickham in 1. Archie Plowman of Northampton 2. Charlie Paul of Leicester in 3. Billy Pettit of Ellesmere in 5. Fraser Agnew of Aberdeen Performance in 6. 7, Joel Thompson of Ellesmere College. 8 is Michael Ripper of the City of St Albans. So we do have a vacant lane 4, so everything happening either on this side or that side. And it's going to be very tight between 1 and 2. Just Fraser Agnew going over first for Aberdeen Performance. Second is Michael Ripper in the outside lane. Third is Billy Pettit at the 50 stage. But again, it's quite a group of about 4 there, pretty much together. In fact, 5 if you look at it. 8, 7, 6, 5 and 3. And not too far adrift now, lane 1 either coming through Joshua Williams of Wickham District.
They're also even as well. I mean, they've all got the same amount of leg kicks, similar sorts of strokes. No one looks like they're trying harder than anyone else, so this one's going to be a very close race.
Well, they are grouped together very closely on time anyway. It's a 154. We have 4 of those, and the others have 155, so there isn't much between them. But who's going to make the decisive break? Might be Charlie Paul here of the City of Leicester, who's having a terrific swim in lane 3. The second half of his race very strong here. 5 is Billy Pettit of Ellesmere College, but lane 3, or is it 8, going to get there first? Just Michael Ripper on the far side getting there ahead of Billy Pettit and Charlie Paul, but you can see there's only 4 100s. Now look at those legs go. Look at those legs go. The plume of water behind all of them as the kick really kicks in. And the winner could come from, well, 3 here. Michael Ripper in there, Billy Pettit in there, Charlie Paul in there. There's now 4 in the line going to the finish of this one. This is going to go which way? Lane 3, I reckon, going to get there first. Charlie Paul in a 1:53.56 on the way down. He goes time-wise with a new personal best. And second place going to Joshua Williams, and third to Billy Pettit. All 3 of them separated by 0.4 of a second.
I don't want to take anything away from Charlie here, as that was a fantastic swim, but Charlie is 18, and I just want to put into perspective people that are watching at home what Jacob has just done at 14 years of age, swimming faster than that against these guys that are now 17 and above, 18, 20, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, Jacob Whittle, if you have just joined us, with a 1:53.02 at 14, and who knows what kind of improvement we're going to see later on today, but that is phenomenal. We certainly need to talk to Tim about that when he joins us, about just how excited he is at the prospect of that young man, and how do you keep him in the sport? That's the important thing.
Yeah, it's very tough with school and other commitments, especially as you get older, and to stay illness and injury free. I mean, how many times have we talked about injury and illness this week? It's very difficult to go through your career having an easy ride, isn't it?
We've got a scratch in 2. Everybody else is there. Miles Robinson Young of City of Peterborough. Archie Goodburn again. Warren DeBards in lane number 3. 4, William Bell. See what he does to back up his 800 last night in lane number 4. 5, Ian Evans of Millfield. Ed Mildred of Northampton in 6. Shiverers, Harry Stacey in 7, and 8 is Jordan Cooley of Stockport Metro. And again, just like the last heat, and indeed like the one before, with the exception of one exceptional young man, everybody pretty much in a line as they approach the 100 stage.
Well, it's very difficult for William Bell. I mean, swimming an 800 last night, it is not easy. It's hard to recover from. He will be hurting, but we'll know he'll have that back-end endurance. We'll know that he'll be able to come through really, really strong here. We spoke about his technique last night, but they're all going with him. I mean, there's 6 of them all in a line here.
Ed Mildred looks to be very strong on this second 100 and is working his way through in lane 6 for Northampton, and potentially could be leading. He will be leading at 150 here. Will Ed Mildred on the turn, just ahead of William Bell. 3rd is Ian Evans. 4, Archie Goodburn. But the winner could come from, well, 4 or 5 here, couldn't it? But I'm really impressed with the second half here from Ed Mildred, who really has turned it on.
I mean, these 4 could be the future of the men's 4x2 here.
Absolutely. This could be our Paris quartet, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Quite easy, but I'm massively impressed. He's done a lot of swims this weekend, Mildred. Is he going to get there first? Just he does, in a 152. So again, down into new territory for him. 152.64. Second, Archie Goodburn with a 152.78. Yeah, margin outside his best, but right on his personal best. And Ian Evans with a 153.2. Yeah, so this could be, you know, certainly any combination here could be the quartet for 2024 in Paris.
I mean, the men's 4x2 has been so strong for so many years. We've got such a good history of it. And I mean, looking down now that we're getting into the fastest 3 heats, you look down and every single heat is jam-packed and going to bring something very special, as they're going to have to swim so quick. So if anyone is slightly off that mark, they're in danger.
Right. It's the cyclically seeded heats now. And this is where it is so intense, because somebody, maybe more than one big name, will not return for the open final later today. Kieran Bird of Bath, Mark Sharanek of Carnegie, Kyle Chisholm of Stockport Metro, Callum Jarvis Bath, Stephen Milne Perth City, Jacob Goodman Millfield, Thomas Flower Richmond Dale. The nerves that must be going through these boys this morning, knowing how well they're going to have to swim to even make that top 8. I can't even believe. Tom Flower of Richmond Dale, Sam Osborne of City of Birmingham. Look at them all go over. 25.37, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 6 under 26 of the turn.
Yeah, Kyle has got a great start here. He's kind of trying to take it out strong, but Stephen Milne as well. He's had a few days off. He's been able to rest. He's been able to look at what everyone else is and how they're swimming and what's been going on. So I think that'll give them some inspiration. But this is going to be a very close race over this last 100.
To even get into the top 8, you are going to have to swim out your skin. There's none of this 80%, 90% nonsense. You're going to have to go flat out from the off. And Mark Juranic knows that in lane 2.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely one of the hardest events at a British Championships just to even make the final. We've not seen this in any other
This is almost
event.
like an American trials, isn't it, do you think?
It's incredible, but it's great to see Callum pick it up, one of the senior athletes, kind of one of the older, more experienced ones. He's always been one of those consistent swimmers, been plagued a little bit with illness at major meets, which unfortunately for him has meant he's missed out on opportunities. But Callum looks so strong here. He knows what he's got to do this morning. He can't back off. He can't ease up down that last 20 metres because he knows there is 2 big heats to come.
And this is real racing for you, everybody. It's everybody having to go flat out in the morning, and Callum Jarvis has done that with a 1:48.34. Of course, he has been quicker. It won't be his quickest time, but he's set the first sub 150 of the morning.
I'm surprised with Stephen there, down obviously in 3rd position. Kyle as well, both on a 150. It's kind of lows that you almost look down.
Is 150 going to get you in the final? I don't think 150 is it?
It might get you in the transition final, but it might not get you in the open final.
I'm not sure. The 150 will get you in the final this morning.
No, especially when it's hard being in the first heat because you have to just set the pace. It's for Duncan, who's going in the last heat, he gets to see what everyone else has done. He can judge it. He knows what sort of time he's on, whereas if you're in that first heat, you've just got to go hell for leather.
Jay Lennox's back after the 200 backstroke. He's in lane 2.
He's not.
Oh, is he not? Has he
No.
decided not to do it? Yeah, I think that's understandable after a very good 200 back. Put all your eggs in that basket tonight, because I think he probably knows he ain't going to make the final of this.
Yeah.
Probably the way things are looking with the speed and the stamina that all this lot have got. Regan Lloyd then in 1 for Team Ipswich. 3, Tim Shuttleworth and Loughborough. We knew him originally as a 1500 swim, but he's come down to the 1 and the 2s now. James Guy in 4 for Bath. 5, Cameron Curl of Bath. 6, Harry Constantine of Hatfield. 7, Matthew Richards, Royal Wolverhampton. 8, Jarvis Parkinson of Loughborough. And James Guy is not leading at the 50.
No, and that quite surprises me. James likes to take it out, but to be honest, here comes James. As soon as you mention that, there comes James through. He's one of those as well that on that 100 metres butterfly, I think he went out a bit too strong and didn't have anything left. So he's going to want to keep it really smooth, because we talk about easy speed and you need that easy pace on that first 50 metres, and that's exactly what James has done here. He is going to want to win this heat, so he's not going to back off. Cameron's giving him a run for his money now. He's kind of not backing off. Lane 7 as well. Matthew Richards is really going for it, but James knows what he's got to do. He's kind of really picked up that pace compared to that first 50 metres.
Yeah, James Guy, you would think, should go on and win this. If not comfortably, at least win it. But he's only about half a body length ahead of Bath teammate Cameron Curl at this stage. Matthew Richards 3rd, Tim Shuttleworth in 4, Harry Constantine. And this is where it's really going to hurt. We heard James talking about his 200 fly the other night, how much that hurt. Well, this 200 free, even in the heat, is going to hurt. And Cameron Curl, his teammate, saying, well, I'm not going to let you have an easy ride here. I'm going to push you all the way, because both of us want to make this final. And they should both make the final with this time. I don't think we'll see anybody on 150 go through. We'll see. And James Guy eases into the wall, James Guy. Goodness me, that last stroke or two was kind of a bit laissez-faire, I thought. It was kind of, yeah, I'm there, yeah, I'll just glide in. And 149, 149.
Great swim from Matthew Richards as well. He's one of those that's gone, you know what, I want to be in that open final. I know what I've got to do. Slightly surprising for Tim Shuttleworth. I think he is your surprise, I think, because you said some people were going to miss out. And obviously with Tim having a personal best of a 148, it's still a good heat swim, but it's not going to be good enough to make that open final.
No, and that wasn't as quick as Callum Jarvis in the previous heat.
No, well, like you said, when you're in that first heat, you've just got to go for it, as you don't know what is going to happen. But here are some of those big guys. How has Duncan Scott recovered? How has Tom Dean recovered? How has Max Litchfield recovered from last night? Because all 3 of those boys were in that 200 medley.
Thomas Kingham of Bath, Daniel Jones, Swansea, Craig McLean of University of Stirling, Duncan Scott, the Flying Scotsman, in lane 4, Thomas Dean of Bath, Max Litchfield, how has he recovered from last night? Luke Turley of Bath, Dan Jervis, of course, back for a 200 here. I tell you what, 150 ain't going to make it. I'm absolutely certain you're going to have to go sub 150 to make the final tonight.
Yeah, this is definitely, I think, the fastest of all the heats this morning. Dan Jervis, the distance boy, didn't qualify for the 800 here, as hasn't swum it in the past year or so, whereas this is a fun event for him. But Duncan Scott just looks absolutely incredible. What a week he is having.
I understand he wasn't all that well earlier in the week, so considering he felt a bit Tom Dick earlier in the week, this is a pretty good performance, is it not, over multiple disciplines.
Well, I didn't know until last night when he was talking to James and John that he used to do 400 IM, and that was what his training was all based around. So I've learned so much this week, and for me, Duncan was my standout swimmer of last year. I absolutely loved watching Duncan come on, and just here, he has just been the surprise for me. As we always knew he was going to be good, but I didn't think he was going to be this good this early in the season.
Well, what will he be like in July? How exciting is that prospect? See what he's going to do in the heat and the heart of the summer. He's winning this by a comfortable margin and turns at 150, yeah, half a second faster than James Guy at that stage. He's under 120. Tom Dean, Max Litchfield, Craig McLean. Dan Jervis may not make the final tonight. And it looks like he's not trying. It looks like it's effortless. Everybody else is working their socks off. If they had socks, they would be. But
yeah, he's kind of taken his foot off the gas slightly a little bit here. But I think with Duncan, he has this windmill last 5 meters that we'll see him turn on tonight. But that was very, very comfortable. But like you said, Bob, you definitely had needed swim under 150 there.
1:48.27 for him. Tom Dean with a 1:48.8. Max with a 1:48.9. Dan Jervis may be the man to miss out here with a 1:50.14. Yeah, we'll have to wait for the computer to sort it out for us. He'll be back. Tom Dean will be back. Max Litchfield will definitely be back. All three of them fine for the final tonight. So Dan Jervis now has a nervous wait. I don't know whether 1:50.14 is going to be good enough.
The transition final's going to be good, isn't
Isn't
it?
it just? But Dan, has he claimed the last place? I wonder. We'll know in just a moment. No, he hasn't. Oh, 1:50.06 creeps in, but 7 inside 1:50. So Carl Chisholm of Stockport Metro. And what was Kyle's previous time? 1:49.4. So he has been 1:49. 7 inside 1:50. Carl Chisholm getting in there. So if you did 1:50, pretty much you weren't back in. And Dan Jervis is included in that lineup.
Yeah, people, it surprised me. Like you said, there was going to be some surprises with Tim Shuttleworth, Stephen Milne there. I thought Stephen was going to make that open final. So that transition final tonight is going to be very good indeed.
I think you've just understated it. Should we sell it a bit harder? I think it might be. You're right. It might actually be the best race we've seen of the week. The 200 IM was pretty special last night, but I think that might take it on to another level.
Yeah, it's going to be good, isn't it? But Duncan, for me,
Is James Guy worried now? Do you think James Guy is worried after what he's just seen from Duncan Scott?
No, because I think you can have 2 per nation. I think, for me, I think...
in terms of tonight's final.
Yeah, but as in, I would personally put 1, 2 being Duncan James. Obviously, Callum Jarvis is going in there as well, so you have got some other guys. But for me, I think it is open, and it's great for that relay as well. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, we should have had 5 go for the first heat of the 1500 freestyle.
This is the swim off, Bob.
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry, it's come on the screen.
The screen's wrong.
Here we go.
Ignore the
I was about to
screen.
say.
It's 100 breaststroke. That would have been a shock.
I was about to say it's only 2 for the 1500, but no, it is last place for the junior final we're looking at here.
We would have thought something gone wrong. They'd dive in and just start doing breaststroke. It'd be a long 1500,
Yes,
wouldn't it?
certainly would, it? 1500 metres breaststroke. Can you imagine? Phoebe Kelman-Johns of Bournemouth and Eliza Powell of Bromley, who are now going for last place in the junior final.
Or do we know their personal best, Bob?
I'm going to have to go back through it, I'm afraid, for you.
Well, I think this is it. So I think they've been a 1:13.9 and a 1:13.5.
Yeah.
So Eliza on paper has the fastest PB, and she's really going for it.
Yeah, she's not holding back here. The Bromley swimmer, is down as 15. Again, because it's age doesn't always indicate whether 15 or 14 for us, but she is, well, she obviously realised she made a mistake early on by not going flat out, so she's going to do it all over again. And poor old Phoebe Kelman-Johns is going, hang on a second, this is supposed to be a swim-off. I'm nowhere near. And she is nowhere near. Now, I say 1:13.54, I would not be at all surprised if she keeps this going. She's going to be massively inside that and probably could have promoted herself further up the pecking order had she done it earlier on. But she's going to win this very comfortably as she ties up, and there's no indication at all that she is going to do that. Eliza Powell of Bromley. Phoebe Kelman-Johns is trying to come back at her, and she is to a certain extent, but time is rapidly running out. It's a good finish, but she's left it too late. She's left it too late. Oh, has she? Yes, she has. Just left it too late. Boy, oh boy, there's only 11 100ths between them in the end. But a 1:13.36 for Eliza Powell compared to her entry time 1:13.54. So I think that's a new PB, but that was way tighter than I thought that would be, because Phoebe Kelman-Johns just coming with every stroke, and had the wall been about another couple of metres further back, she would have got that race.
Maybe Eliza thought it was a 50 metres.
That's a bit too tight from her point of view. Heart in mouth, I would imagine she saw her arrive on a shoulder. No, we do have, I think we have all 5 going for the first heat of the 15. I hope we do anyway.
Yeah, there is 5 heats, but the fastest one will be swum tonight, so there's only going to be the 4 this morning.
And there's that British record. It's not an event swum very often, but it was set in 2013 by the now retired, and of course I saw her on Paul Deck earlier, and we did chat to her in the studio earlier in the week, Jazz Carlin, with that 1500 record. Now, it's an Olympic event, some people, I think yourself included, not sure it should be particularly, but it's in there now and it's not likely to be taken out. So, as some people might say, deal with it. It's there now.
Oh yeah, of course. And the thing is, it does make sense. I think you as you said, I think you mentioned it earlier in the week, that if you were to add all the 50s, it would add another day or two to the program. Whereas it kind of makes it even now for men and women. They're doing exactly the same events, but I don't necessarily think the swimmers wanted that. I don't necessarily think the coaches wanted that. I think it was just a case of, oh yeah, we'll do this because it seems right. But actually, I think if you'd have asked the coaches and the swimmers, they would have loved to have seen the 50s be put in.
Right, before Tim Jones arrives with us, which we hope he will soon, I'll give you firstly the checklist of who we're looking at here. Millie Checkley of City of Birmingham in 2, Emma Dixon of City of Manchester Aquatics in 3, Isabel Bryant of Guildford City in 4, Safira Gabani of Sheffield in 5, and May Bradburn of Chelmsford in lane 6. We will keep across this, don't worry, all the way through. But I want to say hello to Keynsham in particular down there in Bristol. You've had Georgia in this morning, and Georgia had a decent swim, and to the Keynsham lot, who I know are involved in a club meet as well this weekend, hello to you, and to the Team Bath lot, Maddie Crompton, who has been swimming down there, has now moved to Wirral Metro, so she'll be swimming with Wirral. In fact, is now swimming with Wirral, but was very much part of the Team Bath team, so she's on her way, and I know she's wished well by everybody who's trained with her over the past couple of years. Hello, Team Thanet, as we welcome that campaign to get your 50-metre pool in Kent, to add to all the other ones around the country. Darlington and Northampton want to shout out this morning because they've had great swims from their swimmers this week, and a plethora of them. And also the Ellesmere lot want to say how brilliant Alan Bircher has been this week, and I know you know him pretty well. And
Alan, for me, is one of those that was always just so nice to be around. I did a couple of training camps with Alan. He's always so much fun. He loves the sport. His knowledge of the sport is brilliant. When Kerry-Ann Payne came and sat with us yesterday for the men's 800, she credited Alan so much for everything that he has given her in her career. She said that he taught her so much about open water and those skills. And to be honest, for me, Ellesmere have been the standout club this week. I think obviously Bromley, and there has been other clubs that have been good, but for me, the sheer volume of athletes that Ellesmere have and the quality of the juniors, it's almost like they're perfect age. They're that 15, 16-year-olds that are just really coming through, and their technique as well. That's what I've loved this week as well. The junior athletes having such brilliant technique, brilliant turns. Ooh, I think that's your phone there, Bob. There we go. It's gone. It's gone. Sorry about that. But yeah, for me, the technique and the ability that we've seen has just been absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it's been nice to see. Obviously, when Tim gets here, I hope he is on his way down, hopefully. As I'd really love to talk to him about that, as that's one thing that when you're in a club environment, when there is 15 of you in one lane, it's very difficult, isn't it, to work on those skills, to work on those turns. Yet that's been very, very impressive for me this whole week.
Winchester City Swim, of course, we've been talking about Zoe Baker as your coach. They want to point out, and quite rightly so, that Kayla got the World and European Junior time this morning.
Well done. Amazing. And we've seen that, and they can do in the heats as well. That's one thing that we've been forgetting to highlight as well, is the fact that the world team have to do it in a final, whereas for the juniors, they can swim the heats. So it's been great for them. And I mean, I didn't go to World Juniors, I went to European Juniors, but I think the European Junior meets are such a learning curve and a brilliant stepping stone for these athletes. If you look across most Olympic medalists and guys that are going to Worlds, they have been to a European Juniors, and it is a good opportunity to get to know the juniors coming up, and there's always been a history of that. We've done very, very well at European Juniors as well, so it's going to be a fantastic summer. It's where we get to learn the next generation of athletes coming through.
And before Tim joins, a quick shout out to Chris Alderton, who is the coach of Team Bath, and Tracy, thank you for pointing out that Mark Edmondson is a swimmer under Chris. Chris is doing a brilliant job down at Team Bath, and everybody is very happy with him, and they love him, and he gets some great performances out of his swimmers. So good luck to Chris and the Team Bath team. Well, Tim Jones, Head of Elite Development, has joined us, and I've been looking at your tweets this week, Tim. You are quite happy with how things have gone over the first 5 days, I think.
I think so. You know, we always want more quality athletes. But we set the benchmark for our consideration time at around about European Junior final sort of level. So I think up to last
Is that
night
just off the last European Juniors?
No, that's sort of a rolling average of where it's been. So there's always spikes and dips across the events. But we kind of pitch it in an area that we think is pretty much going to guarantee an athlete making a final. And I think up to last night we were sort of in the mid-teens. We've added a couple more this morning. We've got a couple of athletes that have got more than one consideration time. So that puts us in a reasonable position. We keep a check on the number of athletes that make those times year by year. And we're sort of in the ballpark as to what we've achieved in the past few years as well.
Can I talk to you specifically? I know that you want to talk about a multitude of swimmers, but obviously the attention and the headlines have been grabbed this week by Jacob Whittle, 14 years of age, doing phenomenal times in the 100, phenomenal times in the 200. A couple of questions. How exciting a talent is he, and how do you manage to keep him in the sport?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Bob, because we've not had too many sort of prodigious talents like that for a good period of time. And I think we want to go through a process of making sure that he stays engaged, he keeps his feet on the floor. We celebrate that type of talent because, we shouldn't shirk away from it. We need people to know and to recognise that as a sport and as a country we can develop those type of athletes. But clearly the next 2 or 3 years will be key for him, because the reality is that when you swim 50.3 on 100 freestyle, and the best in the world senior-wise, at the moment he's swimming low 47s, is that for the rest of his swimming career, he's probably only going to improve by another 3.5 seconds at best. Now, from a mindset point of view, that becomes quite a challenge. As a 15-year-old lad, to know that you're only now going to be chipping off probably tenths or hundredths of a second year by year is something that he needs to be aware of, and he needs to be nurtured through that. He's well coached with Devencho, by Jamie Main. So we have every confidence in what Jamie can do, and we don't want to look too far ahead of ourselves. We need to support him through this summer to give him some opportunities to race, and then see where we go from that point onwards. But this whole issue about how a young athlete gets their head around the fact that the reality is that 2 or 3 days ago when he dropped a couple of seconds on his 100 freestyle, that's probably the last big drop that he's going to make. He's never going to drop 2 seconds in one go again. I mean, I hope he does, but the chances of that happening are very, very, very slim. So there's some work to do there. I mean, my understanding of the lad is he works hard, a lot of humility, and that's exactly the sort of things that we want to see. Because it's the characteristics of the person as much as their swimming ability, that is important for us to develop as well.
How do you help his coach, though? Because he's not in a main centre. Do you put extra resources into that? Do you have daily contact with Jamie now to say, how's he looking? What's he doing?
Yeah, Jamie's a well-experienced coach. I mean, he worked alongside Bill Furness for a number of years, So, we're not going to tell Jamie how to suck eggs. We're there to support him. Both technically, he's likely to get some support in the coming years. Through either the England program or the British program. If he continues to progress, it's important that we don't, put too much expectation or too many labels on him too early in his career. Because he's a lad who's just 14 at this moment in time, and as the parent of a 14-year-old male as well, I'm very aware of what that age group and generation is all about, and we don't want to put the weight of the world on this boy, but we want to help him, to be the best athlete he can be.
You've got to keep him in the sport somehow. You've got to keep him in there, and because you've been around the sport a long time, you're coach at Edinburgh and everything else. That that 15, 16, 17 age group, trying to keep them in the sport when there are so many other diversions and things that take their attention, and swimming becomes a bit of a chore.
Absolutely.
5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, do I really want to do this?
Yeah.
Will you have a talent? You said prodigious, and he is prodigious. You go, I want you in the sport for Paris, hopefully beyond that. But you've got to make it attractive enough for him to stay in the sport.
Of course, and the challenge will be, Bob, that 12 months' time, he may swim slightly slower. It'll still be a great time, for a lad who's 15, 16 at the time, but he may swim slightly slower. So that understanding and realisation that, you know, the way talent develops isn't usually a straight line from start to finish. You know, it can be a rocky road.
But I think that has to come from the athlete. I know that that's what you want to kind of nurture that, but if an athlete's not driven, you can't help that. You can't teach that. You can't give somebody motivation and drive to get up at 5 a.m. You can certainly help him and support him, but
Yes.
you can't give that to somebody. The athletes have got to want to do it themselves. And I think the biggest challenge, and one that we've not really spoken about enough this week, and one that I mostly get asked about, is how to juggle school and swimming. It's so intense, school at that age. Is there anything you guys do from a sport perspective? Obviously, you can't go into every school and talk to them. So how do you guys help with the school?
Well, you know, we made some changes to the competition structure just 4 or 5 years ago. We now have a qualifying window for some of our end of season meets. And interestingly, even 5 years ago, the pressures from school was a lot less than it is even now.
It's so intense.
So, you know, one of the things that we're trying to do next year is to try and move the qualification window ahead of school exams. But as Bill will say, he eloquently said to the coaching fraternity yesterday, you know, the reality is that our sport demands that you swim fast in the summer. And, you know, we can talk all about exams, but the reality is that we're never going to change the fact that European Juniors is going to be at the end of June, start of July, and World Senior Championships, World Junior Championships are going to be in August, and our sport demands that we do that. So we're never going to be in a position as a sport to change the exams system to, you know, to help our athletes from that perspective. But what we can do is we can recognise that normally good juniors to good seniors take a period of time to transition. You know, it's typically, even if you look across the world, a 4 or 5 year journey. There are some absolute exceptions to that, but the general rule will be that period of time. And we have to have some patience with our athletes as well.
So as an ex-swimmer yourself and as a parent, what advice would you give to parents listening to help their child, to help them balance that school and swimming work lifestyle?
Well, you know, I'm a pragmatist, if I'm honest with it, you know, and, you know, as a parent, my head says, and a member of British swimming staff, there are times that you can put your foot down and put some pressure on the gas in terms of your sporting career, and there's other times you just have to be, you know, realistic and empathetic to the fact that athletes are doing exams, and some athletes can combine sports and education and do a great job at it, and some people don't do that so well, you know, but you know, we can't start killing kids because they have 1 or 2 years when they're going through education where they don't perform as well as they want to. But we have to make sure that we support them and, you know, and recognise that it's probably not through their doing that they're not swimming as well as they want to.
So when inevitably it happens, they have those dips, they have their little fall-offs. How easy is it to keep them at the mindset going? Yeah, everybody has blips. Every swimmer has blips. The best swimmer, Michael Phelps, has had a blip. They all have blips along the way. It's to say to them, get their head right, get the preparation, or maybe even change their preparation so those blips don't happen quite as often or don't happen in a sizable way.
You have a sports psychologist, though, don't you?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have a number. We have a team. And, you know, we're doing a piece of work at the moment, Bob, where, you know, when we talk about what the attributes of our great British swimmers look like, you know, we're not talking so much about, you know, what they look like technically in the pool. That's important. We're not talking about the sort of training they do in the pool. We're talking about the broader, holistic, what does this athlete look like, you know? Do they love coming to the pool? Have they got an intrinsic motivation? Do they love coming to the pool on race day and being able to perform in front of a crowd? You know, so it's those type of character attributes that, you know, we think are really important in developing in our athletes in the future, and not just talking about meters in the pool and how fast you swim at a moment in time.
So talk to us about the European Juniors and the World Juniors this year, because they're the same qualifying times, aren't they? Where are they in the year? How do they fit in? What are the team sizes? How does that all work this year?
Yeah, so it's a real challenge, these every other year for us, because at the moment, whereas nations like, you know, the US and Canada and Australia, they will have one junior meet to focus on this year. Then we have 2 excellent meets, and the reality is that, you know, World Junior Championships has only been around for a short period of time. It's probably a meet that's not quite as embedded in the program as the European Juniors. European Juniors has been around forever and a day, and we've got a great history of performing well at that meet. So our challenge is that we're trying to use both meets. We're trying to support both meets, but we only have, you know, a certain cohort of athletes of the quality that are going to enable us to do well at those meets. You know, I think in an ideal world, we would like to think that the calendar plan looks like, you know, a European Juniors 1 year and maybe a World Juniors every other year. So we have one meet to focus on. But the reality of this year is that we put a policy together which says that we'll select up to 40 athletes across those 2 competitions, which is up to 30 for the European Juniors and a much smaller group for World Juniors. And the thinking behind that is that...
so will it be different athletes for the World Juniors or the same that go to
Not
Europe?
necessarily.
Okay.
I think that there's likely to be a little bit of overlap there. And I think, you know, one of the challenges is that the World Juniors, again, is notoriously late in the swimming year. So this year it's the 20th or the 25th of August. And if we've got any outstanding juniors that stand a chance of putting themselves, you know, in the mix for Olympic selection next year, to be still racing at the back end of August and then to take a break and then to start the season is a huge challenge for them. You know, so we've probably got a couple of examples already from what we've seen in the meet of athletes that aren't going to be a million miles away next April when we go to British Championships, which is the Olympic trials. And I have to give those guys a chance, you know, to race this summer, do something productive, but then to get a break, then to come back and to prepare for the start of next season. You know, so, you know, we can be fairly categorical in saying that it's not necessarily going to be all of our best swimmers that will go to World Juniors. All of our best junior swimmers will race sometime this summer, either European Juniors or the World Juniors. It won't necessarily be a strict hierarchy of the best go to World Juniors and the next group go to
I've just heard the
European
bell
Juniors.
Yeah, there's a bell.
of that last 100 metres. I've gone, oh, that bell.
Let's see the last 100 home for Safira Gabani of the city of Sheffield, entered in on 17:46.40. She's done a lot of events here, and she's really had to be in the front runner for the majority of this race. She's a long way clear of Emma Dixon in second place and Isabel Bryant in third place. She'll be coming into her last 50, and you can see she's right in front of us now. It's hurting. It really is hurting. Well, the 1500 does anyway, but she's never been this quick. So she'll be looking to be massively inside 17:46 if she can be. And she's on her way back now with a sizable lead over the rest. Emma Dixon in second place, but how much can she get inside that 17:46? That's the question. You can see her coming into the tail end of the race. Look at the clock down the bottom. It's going to be a PB, and it's going to be a sizable PB as well. 17:30 on the nose for Safira Gabani. That's a 16-second PB for the City of Sheffield swimmer. Second is Emma Dixon at 17:39, so that's 10 seconds better than she's been before. And Isabel Bryant will come in, has come in third place. And there's a couple still to finish off. Millie Checkley just coming to the end of her swim, and that will be the conclusion of the 1500 freestyle for women. So good new personal best
There's
time.
still one swimming,
Bob.
Bob.
There's one, sorry. Almost out of my sight. I wasn't sure she was still in because she wasn't showing on the board there for a moment, but she is still with us, and that's
Millie
Checkley in lane number 2. Here she comes into 17:52, and she will end in a 18:01. So personal best for 1, 2, and just checking 3, 17:42. Yep, all three in the top 3 with personal best in the first of the 1500s. We'll have a look at heat number 2 in a moment. Tim Jones is with us, the head of Elite Development. Tim, this week we've been concentrating a lot on the juniors and the swimmers coming through, and certain clubs have come to the fore. And what I want to identify, a small club with actually very few swimmers here, Bromley, have been exceptional this week. What are your thoughts on what they've managed to achieve over 6 days?
I mean, they've had some terrific swims. I mean, there's been 2 or 3 standout girls from Bromley. I suppose if you were to pick one, it would be the results of the freestyle girl Tamrin Van Selm, which again have look like an exciting prospect, for the future. So you can talk about Jacob Whittles of this world, but equally from a female point of view, that's probably as exciting for us because we've probably lacked a little bit in the quality of our 100 freestyle athletes. Below what Siobhan used to do, what Freya now currently does. Really pleased the fact that Anna Hopkins, really taking a big stride forwards for us. But when you lose an athlete to the prowess of a Fran Household, then those are difficult holes to fill. And you have to be, realistic. We're talking about 15-year-old girls here, so these are girls that aren't even really world junior or European junior age. These are people that are going to the next tier of competition down, something like the European Youth Olympic Festival. But girls of that age can come to the fore incredibly quickly, but these girls are well coached. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's work with them and their coach, and let's hope that we're not just talking about girls that are swimming 55 for 100 freestyle or 201, 202 for 200 freestyle next year, but they're really making a mark, because there are holes in both of those events that need to be filled quite quickly.
Freestyle right across the board, really, isn't it? Because obviously Becky's gone, Jazz has gone, Joe's gone. We've lost a lot of world greats, if you like, and Fran, you mentioned. So there's quite a bare cupboard when it comes to the freestyle swimmers.
It is, and the positive is when you can find a one or two quality freestylers, there are so many medal options with freestyle events, because there's obviously a lot more freestyle events individually, but the way that they can add to a relay team as well, that's important for us. But we had a 400 freestyle event yesterday where we had 6 juniors that swam under 420, and that's solid for us. And a number of those girls are 15-year-old, 16-year-old girls. So if we can continue to move those girls forwards, and I'm pretty confident they're doing the right type of work, then that looks a much stronger group for the future. And equally, that group, was swimming 201s on the 200 freestyle early in the week, and that should help us on the women's 4x2 as well in the near future.
Just going to run through the swimmers for heat number 2 before we carry on our chat, so we give more mention before the end. Megan Vingo of Cumbria, Kaylin Hall of Aberdeen, Katie Taylor, City of Glasgow, Erin Hoyland of City of Manchester, Victoria Dawson of Southport is in lane number 5, Rebecca Flisher of Nova Centurion in 6, Lucy Headley of Tynemouth in 7 to 15 years of age, as indeed is Kaylin Hall, and Ella Thatcher-Plant of Wrekin College. Tim Jones, the head of Elite Development, is with us. Becky, you have some questions.
Yeah, I think for me it's interesting to know how you kind of spot these. It's not football where you go into academies at 8, 9 years old and everything like that. And I think a lot of people probably assume that the coaches are phoning you going, I've got a really bright prospect, but it doesn't work that way either. So
no, it
talk us through the whole talent ID process of how it works on a junior level.
Yeah, so it's an interesting structure, because British Swimming has a responsibility, arguably, for a very small group of athletes. Our roster is ultimately 54 athletes at the moment, which are the people on the world-class programme. And our remit, whilst we have influence further down the talent pathway, it isn't exclusively ours. So we work very closely with Swim England, Scottish Swimming, and Swim Wales as well. And they have talent teams that are working at those sort of levels. They have development programs themselves. So we try and make it as seamless as possible. That at the moment, an athlete sort of raises the head above the parapet within a Home Nations program, then there are conversations that take place, and we try and make any transition onto a British program, which is usually at European junior level, as seamless as possible. But of course, one of the challenges we have is that we're talking about young athletes that are living at home. They're in school at home. They probably only have the choice of 1 or 2 local swimming clubs from which to choose. Most families aren't portable. They can't move around the country. So our challenge is that we have to work with athletes in the situation that they're in the environment they're in, and to work to upskill the coaches to make them the best coaches they can possibly be. And if at a point in time in the future they want to move on to a different program, a different environment, then we want to support them in doing that. But I think we've moved away from the whole idea that we're going to pluck kids out of club programs and drop them into training centres, because, again, as a parent, I know that isn't something that would work, and it's just not something from experience that we've had, anything positive from in the past.
Do you know what really helped me as an athlete, and I can only obviously talk from my experiences? Bill Sweetenham decided in 2004 to send me on the Olympic holding camp. I didn't make the Olympic team. I was only 15 years of age, but it was one of those that they wanted to give a few of us. There was myself, Kerry-Ann Payne, and a swimmer called Lorna Tonks, that us 3 got chosen to go on that Olympic holding camp to train with some of these senior athletes. And that is one of the standout memories for me, because it taught me so much, because my world was just this 15-year-old old bubble, and you're just so used to just racing juniors in your own little world of doing your school and exams. And then I saw what it was like to be a professional athlete, and it really opened my eyes. But there doesn't seem to be anything like that anymore. It's not that you're talking to USA swimmers going, can we join together for a junior training camp for 2 weeks? How come they don't do that sort of thing? How come you're not talking and trying to give that athlete that experience?
Yeah, we do. It probably just it just doesn't fits up with the radar, to be honest with you. So we've been going out to Japan as an example for the past 4 years now. We've taken groups of British swimmers to swim in their national development camp. We've done that since 2014, and it's interesting when you look at the groups of athletes that have been out on that camp. So the first cohort that we took out was Duncan Scott, Martin Walton, Luke Greenbank, Holly Hibbert, Abby Wood. So we've been working away in the background. That's a camp that we've continued to do. We took I think 4 swimmers out this year, and those 4 swimmers are looking like swimmers that will make one of the junior teams this year, which will be terrific. So we've had some real success from that. We do try and take part in the British Olympic Association Ambitions programs, which they run from time to time, but those unfortunately tend to be relatively small numbers. And you know yourself that unless we get access to those sort of programs that are run by the BOA, the chance of us being able to piggyback on an Olympics because of accreditation becomes incredibly challenging. So we know that there's a piece of work to be done leading into 2028 in particular, because we're talking about a US Games there. It's a little bit more off-piste for us. Maybe 2024, because we're only talking about going across the channel to Paris isn't such a challenge for us, although there's some cultural challenges for us. But we're working hard in the background to keep working those partnerships, because we think it's incredibly important that some of our athletes are exposed to some of the best of what's happening across the rest of the world. And the reason that we chose Japan was not just because of the Tokyo Olympics, but because we know the culture it's hard work, and people don't take anything for granted. So every one of our athletes that's been through that process, and there's probably around about 20 I can think of at the top of my head, will come back and say, that was a life-changing experience for them.
Do you take coaches as well?
Yeah, we do take coaches as well. So we've taken a number of coaches, and we've offered that out as a development opportunity. I think this last time that we went, it was one of the staff from the city of Birmingham that went. But we've spread that opportunity out fairly far and wide. But it's something that's not particularly high profile, because it's not attached to an Olympic game, so it probably goes under the radar. But we've done that now since 2014 in December, and we'll do it again this year. We've already made plans to do that.
Yeah, I think both me and Bob, we've mentioned constantly this week, haven't we, the new coaches, the ones that swam, that have now gone into coaching. And it is about developing the coach just as much as it is the athlete, because actually the coaches are going to be around for a lot longer than the athletes, hopefully. So obviously there's a lot of work to do. I mean, we've named a couple, Roberto Pavoni, that have now stepped
Chris
up.
Alderton.
Yeah, there's been loads of those guys. So what do you do with them? Is there a specific program that they fit onto, or do you just work with them individually?
Okay, so there's probably 2 or 3 things that we do with coaches like that. So at home nations level, certainly England runs a very proactive series of coach development programs. They run one which is called Coach 2024, which probably 30 or 40 coaches have now been through the last couple of years. So that helps the likes of the Chris Aldertons. They have a pathway coach program for coaches that are probably a little bit earlier into their coaching career. We work with UK Sport because they have an athlete to coach program as well. So again, we have a couple of fairly recent athletes that are part of that program. Pav's one of those, and Dan Fogg as well has also been part of that. And on top of that, we try and use events like Youth Olympics, European Juniors, World Juniors, just as a great development opportunity for our next generation of coaches. So we very rarely name the same group of staff that will do those junior meets time on time now. In my own head, I want to give people an opportunity to do European Juniors. Maybe the next step up the ladder is to do World Juniors. And then, they're in the big wide world trying to battle for a place on the World Senior Team or as an Olympic coach. And again, if I look back at some of the coaches that are now right at the fore of British swimming, those are coaches that were part of European Junior staff only 3 or 4 years ago. So Stephen Teague was, his first coach selection, the British team was European Juniors in 2014. Andy Manley, it was 2015. Richard Denningham from City of Leeds, 2014. So Dave Hemmings, again, very, very recently have we involved in national team level. So those are the sort of coaches that are starting to produce some outstanding results with some senior swimmers. And I'd like to think that's, absolutely as a consequence of some of the work that's been done with the home nations, with Nigel Redman and British swimming, and some of the opportunities that we can provide as well.
It's so important, though. Sorry, just to finish up your point there. I think it's so important as an athlete because everyone assumes that at this top level, that every single swimmer here that has made World Championships, their coach will be going to World Championships. That does not happen. You've got to be used to swimming with different coaches, and I think that's a real hard task at a senior level, that you've got to be able to interchange with coaches, so it's really important that they do work together.
Absolutely, and we keep a check on the number of opportunities and coaches that we can expose to those opportunities, and certainly since the leadership team changed at British Swimming in 2013, it's been in excess of 100 coaches that have been offered chances to go to in-season meets, the major meets, camps like the Japan Development Camp, so for us that's probably a big success story that we don't you
don't shout about as much.
Probably not as much as we should do, but I would like to think, and just thinking forward to what my staff is potentially going to look like the junior meets this year. We're giving more young coaches an opportunity to experience what it's like to coach internationally.
And your biggest success story has to be Mel Marshall, doesn't it? Somebody who's transitioned from being a swimmer into a coaching program, taken a small club initially, gone to a big program, and producing what she has produced in a very short space of time.
Didn't she just get a coaching for UK Sport? Didn't she
achieve
she did. Coaching excellence?
She just finished one of UK Sport's elite coaching programs. She was one of a group of coaches across sports that graduated. Gareth Southgate was one of the...
she shouts about that a lot.
The other more notable ones as well. But, and Mel, clearly, because of her results with Adam and the job that she's done, is one of our more high-profile successes. But there have been many other coaches that have gone through those type of programs that we should celebrate as well. And many other coaches that are not that far, out of the water themselves, that have done a terrific job. Stephen Teague is a young coach. Dave Hemmings at the National Centre working alongside Mel Marshall is a young coach as well. So we need to celebrate those people as well.
And you've gone to the smaller clubs, like Dave, for example, was at Hillingdon when you took him to Loughborough. Been very easy to go, he's at a relatively small club. So it's a big step for Dave to go from that to a national centre. But you had faith in him, obviously saw something in him and what he was doing at Hillingdon and thought, here's a guy that we've identified. ID maybe. Talent from a coach's point of view, and that guy's got something that we need, and we can always identify early on that he will make a good transition to somewhere like Loughborough.
Yeah, and to be fair, in Dave's specific case, there's a lot of credit to him because, we went through a process of offering a coach intern role at Loughborough. So, he will have probably had to take a salary drop. He had a lot of faith in himself. He wanted to take his coaching to the next level. He was probably aware that, as with all swimming clubs, there are some limitations of what you can achieve within the facilities and the money you've got. So he chose to take an opportunity to work with some high performance athletes. And you know what? Dave has grabbed it with two hands, to the extent that he then got a full-time senior role working alongside Mel. And you only have to look at the results of some of his athletes this week to know that he's doing a terrific job. He's well respected. His technical eye is amongst the best, not just in Britain but in the world. And we're always having to find other Dave Hemmings.
Do you know what? And I don't want to sound too negative when I say this, but when I was on the British team, there's a real mentality of who can kill their athletes more. I found the coaching stuff very negative. It was like very much that it was very ego. It was very much like, well, my swimmer's more tired than yours. And it was that mentality 20 years ago, unfortunately. It was that state. There's a couple of coaches outside of that. But now you look around poolside, they're all supporting one another. It's not a case of any any jealousy. It's not that, oh, well, your swimmer's doing better than mine. There's none of that. It's how can we help you? How can we support one another? How can we use each other's skills? They're much happier now at saying, you know what, you swim for that club, but come on a training camp with us. Whereas that was unheard of 10 years ago. You didn't do that because everyone wanted to kind of claim their athletes a lot more.
For sure.
So I think that just the mentality's changed. I think that's clearly got to help these athletes, surely.
I think so. I mean, there's probably the buzzword of the past 2 or 3 years has been the word culture, and culture, there's been some negative connotations around that. We would like to think that the culture that we've tried to create within our programs, our sports, our teams that travel is that we want, a level of relaxed professionalism. So, we don't need to create any excess stress around our athletes when we go to the big meets. These meets are, challenging enough. We know that we're stronger if we work together. And I think, with the quality of some of the coaches around the poolside and quality of some of the staff that can help support them through British Swimming, I think we recognise that we're all in this together, and if we're going to be as successful as a nation, we have to pull together. And from a British Swimming point of view, we have 2 national centres which we like to sell as performance hubs that people can come into. They can use some of the experience of the coaches and the support staff. They can benefit from that, and then they can go back into the home environment, particularly important for some of the young athletes that can't move there full time. And I would like to think, that we're in a place now where, the culture that you described from, 15 years ago, which
and
I was well aware of
when
I was coaching as well. Is something that we've maybe, moved on from, and we're in a little bit of a different place now.
I think the sport has just moved on so much. Yes, we talk about the fact that the times are coming down from the athletes, but I think everything poolside from a sports science perspective to now the guys that you work off the analysis. I mean, I've seen them filming every single race. The breakdown of that is just so important. We've talked about the lactic acid test this week, the nutritionist, the sports psychologist. Sports totally moved on now, hasn't it? And
it has.
It's so nice to see that, especially from a swimming perspective. But I'm going to put a bit of pressure on you and ask you to name some of the stars that we should be looking out for. Is there anyone that has got that potential for next year's Olympics, or is it all about Paris?
No, I mean, I think some of the stars that are starting to put their head above the parapet. Tom Dean, who's barely 12 months out of junior swimming. He was swimming European juniors this time, less than this time last year. He's somebody that's going to make a real mark in senior performance. We can already see from what he's done at this meet and what he's done in season this year so far that Tom's going to have a great future. So he's certainly one to look out for. You've already talked about that crop of 15, 16-year-old girls. I'm really excited, whilst they'll not hit the headlines, with the group of kids that we'll take to European Youth Olympics this year. It's a group that you just haven't seen before, particularly on the female side of things. We looked this morning at the heats of the men's tour in the freestyle. We've got a young lad in Matt Richards who's made the final. He's a young boy. He's still in junior swimming for another 12 months. He's mixing it with the senior athletes, and that for me is great. And who knows what can happen in the space of 12 months. So I think across the piece there's some exciting stuff happening. And it's interesting because when we've selected the likes of the Tom Deans and the Nick Parrs and the Freya Andersons for junior teams in the past from this meet, they've not really been standout at the trial event. But boy, have they moved it on at the big meet. And it's those athletes that have got the mentality to move it on at the big meets that are going to do something special.
Hold that thought. We'll come back to Tim Jones in just a moment as we see the completion of heat number 2 of the 1500 freestyle for women. And again, ploughing a lone furrow, not quite as far ahead of the others as happened with Safira Gabani, but Erin Hoyland of Cincy of Manchester Aquatics entered in on a 17:38, gets a 17:36, so heading in the right direction, a couple of seconds better than she has been before. In second place, it is going to be Kaylin Hall of Aberdeen Performance, and third is Victoria Dawson with a 17:38. So I think everybody is moving in the right direction in an event. Of course, they don't swim very often, but here they are doing personal best in heat number 2. Got a couple more heats as we see them all finish off. We'll give you the completed scoreboard in just a moment when everybody is in, and Lucy Headley is just finishing off from timer. So if you have a swimmer in the race, or somebody you know, or your coach or your team is represented here, then there are all the completed times, so we'll revolve that board. We'll get the completed times. It is hard work. It's a 1500 free, and it's an event that is now an Olympic event as of next year, and will be swum more often there in Holland. So we have 7 of the 8 all there under 18 minutes. We're with the head of elite development, Tim Jones, talking about how things are as we look forward to the next Olympic Games in Tokyo, and of course, probably more appropriately from your point of view, how we're looking going into Paris in about 4 or 5 years' time. You went away from the sport, you went to another sport. What did you learn from being outside the swimming bubble that you've been able to bring back into it?
That's a good question, Bob. So I spent a couple of years working track and field, UK athletics, and then spent 5 years as the performance director of British gymnastics. I had a ball, we had a great period of time, and to be honest with you, a sport which had very little performance history, or certainly recent performance history. I think it had won 1 medal in 80 years. To be competing at a home games was a challenge for me and a challenge for the team. But they did terrifically well in London, and have continued that journey on to what they did in Rio as well. So the likes of Max Whitlocks of this world that were just starting to emerge and picked up the first medal in London. That was probably, again, a good lesson for me. Plenty of similarities, to be honest with you, between gymnastics and swimming, not least the fact that you would tend to be working with athletes of a similar age. You tend to have a group of athletes that have to make a large commitment to training. These aren't small commitment sports, these are large commitment sports. And again, a sport which is very much coach-athlete driven. You don't go into a gym without a coach. This isn't stuff you can do on your own. It's the partnership between the coach and the athlete is incredibly important. But I was really keen to look outside of the world of swimming for a period of time. I'm really interested in how different sports do high performance. And for me, I think there were some lessons that I was able to take from swimming, good swimming practice that helped other sports, and I think there's been stuff that I've been able to bring back, from gymnastics into what we've been able to do with some of our junior programs as well.
Any specifics? You could say what directly related from the sports you were in that you've managed to go, yeah, that would work really well in swimming.
I think we've talked on coach development, and the importance of having groups of coaches or a cohort of coaches that are incredibly upskilled, so you can deliver both swimming and gymnastics as sports which don't have a centralised model. You can't bring in the same way in gymnastics as swimming. You can't bring groups of young athletes together too often because they have academic commitments. So there is a role of the home coach which you cannot ignore. You have to support, and we certainly, went to many sort of steps to make sure that the quality of the coaching in the home environment was first class. But again, probably one of the things that I took away from gymnastics, or one of the big things, was that gymnastics is a sport that, again, you have to have the ability to perform at any time, at any place, and you can't get to the stage where the stars need to be lined up in the sky before you can produce a reasonable performance. Gymnasts are flying all around the world. Spatial awareness, clearly in some of the disciplines, is something, which is incredibly important, because if you lose where you are on a tumble, then you're landing on your knees or worse than that. But again, the ability of the gymnast to be able to adapt to the environment very, very quickly is something that I thought was incredibly, impressive. So we would have groups of gymnasts that would fly to Japan one day, have a rest day, and then compete the following day. And that was probably something that we had done too much of in swimming as a sport. So one of the things that we've done a lot the last 4 or 5 years is we put in place what we call out of comfort tours or out of comfort competitions, and we only did one at the start of March of this year, where James Wilby travelled with a relatively young group. Molly Renshaw was there as well. We flew on Wednesday. We arrived late. We had Thursday to get ourselves ready, and we were racing first thing on Friday morning. And I think the ability of our athletes to adapt and not to be too precious about the things that aren't quite right, and just focus on on what's controllable from their point of view.
Taking them out of their comfort zone. In other words.
Absolutely. But, you know, if we talk about trying to build robust and resilient athletes that are capable of flying and don't feel like they need a week to recover from that type of stuff, that's a skill that you have to develop. And knowing that we're flying east with the senior team this next 2 years to a World Championships in Guangzhou and an Olympic Games in Tokyo is something that you know, we have to prepare our athletes for. You know, so some of our big hitters, Duncan has been out that way a number of times now, and that's really important for us. Luke Greenbank's been out that way and trained a number of times for us. That's important. Tom Dean, you know, will get a chance to go out that way this year.
I don't want to pick on Dan Jervis at all. It's just I just want to use him as an example. Is the fact that we have events like the men's breaststroke, like the 200 freestyle, where they're jam-packed and actually they're having to swim fast through heats just to even make the final, which is great experience then when they step on the world stage. For somebody like Dan, who is out on his own and then it just kind of knows he's going to win the race, doesn't he? Here it's just been him against the clock. How does he now make that transition? Because at a Worlds, he isn't going to be out on his own. He is going to have the rest of the field. And for females, it's a bit easier because you can train against the boys and you can gain that experience. There is somewhere for you to turn, I think, for
Correct.
females because they can go to the boys. What does somebody like Dan Jervis do now? How does he get that experience? Because you can't race a 415s and everything else every weekend. So how does he progress now to Worlds and get used to that environment that at a Worlds he's going to have to swim fast in the heats and he is going to have a race on his hands?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a great question. You know, I mean, there's a couple of practical things that Dan's doing at the moment. So, you know, Dan has been a full participant in our altitude program. You know, so Dan's been travelling away to altitude with the rest of the British team. You know, for the past 3 years, he spent 6 weeks of each year doing that. You know, he's swimming alongside Duncan. He's swimming alongside James Guy, who actually are they're slightly quicker athletes themselves. You know, he's working alongside Jack Burnell, who's an open water athlete who does something, you know, some extreme distance as well. So from a training point of view, I think both he and his coach, Adam Baker, would be very comfortable with where they're at from that perspective. I had a conversation with Adam after his 1500 and said, you know, that was always going to be a tough mental swim for Dan. And he says, yes, but Tim, Dan's been used to doing that for every year of his life because he's been racing himself in Wales for a lot of years, down in Swansea. You know, every time he's turned up to a Welsh Nationals, he's been, you know, winning races by some considerable distance. But there is a different skill set, as you're right say, when you're swimming alongside people who might have a different tactical race plan. And you'll know yourself that, you know, there's an experience that needs to be built of doing that, but there's also, you know, a mental plan that has to be put in place which says, I know what I need to achieve here, I know what my process looks like, and for me to get the best out of myself, I've got to have a strong process which is agile and adaptable because, you know, we don't go up in lanes on our own without any sort of sight of what else is going on around the pool. You know, and he's now in a position where I would suggest that probably since the Commonwealth Games last year, you know, he's much more resilient than he was for a period of time. You know, Dan will have been incredibly disappointed by the fact that he didn't make the team for Rio in 2016.
Yeah.
You know, but equally, Dan's rise to fame was in 2014. He came to this trials meet. He knocked 40 seconds off his best time to make the European Junior team. He then went to the European Juniors and knocked another 10 seconds off to win the event. And he then went on to the Commonwealth Games and swum another 12 seconds quicker to pick up a bronze medal. Now, again, that type of improvement over the course of a season, you just don't see very often at all. You know, those as, you know, as we say, are the unicorns in the sport. They're not the ones that happen day by day. So Dan's, you know, going back to the conversation around Jacob Whittle, Dan's the sort of athlete that's had to recognise that, you know, as a European Junior winner, as a Commonwealth Games bronze medalist, who swam 14:55, he was only going to be chipping off the odd second here or there for the rest of his career.
Event, like,
yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, his performance a few nights ago was probably one of the most outstanding swims that we've had at the championships.
Agreed. So what happens from now until World Championships? training camps, racing, what goes on? Is that all individual, or is that do you do that as a team?
Yeah, so we're very mindful that we don't want to keep on pulling athletes out of their home environment. I think, if we look at some of our preparations in the past, then one of the criticisms you could easily make is that athletes were pulled away from what they knew worked and working with the home coaches way too often. So we're mindful of not doing that. So there will be a couple of short camps for a couple of specific relay groups in the next month to 6 weeks or so. But the World Championship team itself will travel to 2 of the main Austrian meets. They'll go to Cannes and Barcelona with a short camp in between. They'll come back home, and then I believe it's the 6th of July that the team will jet off to the holding camp for the World Championships. Holding camp will be in Japan. It'll be exactly the same venue that we will use for the Olympic Games next year, so it's a great test run for that. They'll be there for just over a week, and then they'll travel into Gwangju 3 or 4 days ahead of the competition.
Perfect.
Sorry, can I ask you about open water? Because we've got a couple of very talented men on the team at the moment and going forward to the World Championships this year. Obviously, with Jazz now giving up, and obviously Kerry-Ann's gone and Cassie's gone, bit of a vacuum there at the moment for the open water women at the moment. What are you doing to try and address that?
Yeah, I think open water is an interesting sport because one of the challenges that come to us as a governing body from UK sport is what medals are available to a sport. What medals do you think you can collect from a sport? And of course, the challenge around open water is that we're talking about a very, very small number of medals that are available. And of course, open water is such that this year is almost the big year in open water, because this is the year you qualify for the Olympic Games. This is the year that at the World Championships there'll be 70 or 80 quality athletes that are fighting out for a top 10 place. The field that will actually compete the Olympics in 15, 16 months' time will be a much smaller field. No less quality, but certainly not the numbers there, and require a different race tactic. So, for us this year, I guess Jack and Toby Robinson would be the people that, from a male point of view, that we're really, trying to get them into one of those top 10 slots. And again, my understanding is that, we can qualify 2 of them potentially if they both finish in the top 10 for the Olympics next year. If we had nobody in the top 10, then we've got to hope we can get a place, next year. And that would be more of a challenge for us. You're right, we've got more of a hole in the women's program. And to be fair, we've got a little bit of a hole in women's distance swimming, full stop. This isn't just open water. It's symptomatic of the fact that, probably one of the events where the quality wasn't as high as we would want it to be this year was the women's 800 freestyle. And you know all about
I'll get my cosy, hold on.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Not too late.
I'm definitely not doing that at all. And I think that this year we've talked so often about the World Championships, but explain to those at home about the relay qualification for the Olympics that happens at Worlds.
Yeah, so for the pool, yes.
Yeah.
In essence, we're needing I think it's a top 12 place in relay. So,
So in every relay.
Yeah. So if we want to compete at the Olympics next year in a relay, my understanding is that we have to perform this year. So, it could very well be the selectors will meet tomorrow to look at our teams, but that I'm sure will be at the back of their minds, because if we think there's potential for a relay to do well, and it's one of the relays that we haven't been quite as prolific the past couple of years, then we do have to swim that relay at the World Championships this year.
So women's 4x1, women's 4x2, for example.
Those are examples, Bob. If there was a sense that those are relay teams that could potentially push towards the top of the field, then we would need to race those races this year. And of course, the balance for us is that we're trying to balance the individual opportunities of some of our big hitters, because clearly don't want to damage those, with the potential for a relay to make a mark. And unfortunately, we can look back at what happened in Glasgow last year, and we had some great relays, some great relay results. But are those going to be as potent when we bring in the Americans and the Canadians and the Australians and the Japanese? Well, that will probably sort of subdue them a little bit. So we've got to be very realistic, and when we spoke to the coaches yesterday, we're painfully realistic about where we think our medal opportunities are. We have to focus on those, because our job is to convert convert our chances, as many chances as possible, and not be shooting for stars that really aren't there.
It's a really hard task as well, because you've only got 30 swimmers on the team. And is it a case of saying, right, the women's 4x2 will give it a chance? And it's very tough to ask 4x2 to even come in the top 12 at Worlds. That is kind of, it is a bit risky. Whereas actually you could have used one of those spots to one of the junior athletes like a Tom Dean. I mean, he might qualify on the 200 now. Anyway, but Tom Dean last night for me was one of those that I would have gone, he's a wild card, because like you said, he is one of those bright stars. So it's that real balance act, because you've got your relays in the back of your mind, but then you've also got these juniors that do you give them that experience a year out from the games?
Correct. You know, and it's that's exactly the conundrum that the selectors will have. You know, because I think the women's 200 freestyle, off the top of my head, that was Freya Anderson that won that. You know, Holly Hibbert was second. I think Georgia Coates and Alice Thomas now. Alice, I think, has already qualified, I think, by virtue of, or is likely to qualify by virtue of her 200 fly performance. But there's only so many wildcards that are available to the selectors. So, you know, you're doing exactly that. You're trying to make judgments as to what is the best use of those wildcards, without just putting out a policy which becomes wholly subjective, which again isn't something the sport is prepared for. Again, Bob, you talk about one of my learnings from gymnastics, then it's a wholly subjective selection in most instances. You've got a good
it's
idea,
a gut feeling, is it?
But it's, you know, there's gut feel, yeah. There's technical experts that guide that.
Oh, you know that person. You think that person's not going to let us down. When they get in a big race, they will race well.
Absolutely. But, you know, gymnastics as a sport isn't quite as objective as, you know, you can compare a time from this meet with a time from another meet. You know, gymnastics is a judged sport. You know, so what?
It's a bit like diving in effect, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. You know,
There's even less places on the gymnastic team, isn't it? Isn't there like 5 spots? Or
even less places. So, you know, I've learned all about making subjective, you know, decisions. And I do think the way we've developed our policies is right to give us that flexibility. But, you know, the conundrum that you've just talked through about where you best use those, what relays you try and qualify, are exactly, you know, the things that are going to be running through the selectors and Bill and Chris's mind
I'm glad
in
we're
the next
not on
24
that.
hours.
Back with you some more, Tim, as we get into heat number 4 shortly. But let's see the conclusion of heat number 3. And again, we have a clear front runner. Ella Dyson of Wickham District is a long way clear, or a relatively long way clear of Millie Emmons of Surrey University in second place. Chloe Stennett of Chesterfield in third. So let's look at the target time for our leader. Her best before today was time of 17:26:33. As you can see, she's well on her way back, and we haven't even hit 17 minutes yet, so she will be inside that time. And she had a gap of about 6 seconds, just over 6, between herself and second place Millie Emmons in second. Chloe Stennett of Chesterfield will be coming in third place, but I think we're looking at a big new personal best for Ella Dyson of Wickham District, 17:18. So before it was a 17:26, she's down to a 17:18 now, so a nice sizable chunk down for her. Chloe Stennett on the far side, finishing very strongly in there because she was in third place at the turn, but got up to second place with a 17:24, and her previous best was a 17:35, so that's an 11-second PB for her. And Millie Emmons of Surrey University has, right on her personal best, not quite an improvement, but the top 2 with sizable improvements as we see. The others just conclude. We don't have a lane 5, so everybody is now in. That's your completed line. We'll just wait for the board to come back on with all the confirmed times, all of them under 18 minutes. Our winner with a 17:18. Chloe Stennett in second, and Ella Took down in 7th place. Heat 5, by the way, is tonight. The heat declared winner will be tonight. We have one more heat, and I'll give you the run-through of them before we go back talking to Tim Jones. There you go. Olivia Clare of City of Manchester Aquatics, Nikki Miller of East Kilbride, Amber Keegan of City of Sheffield, Amelia Rodd of Ellesmere College. We've seen quite a few of these during the course of the week, and here they are back for their big long swim at the back end of it. Georgia Darwin of Newcastle, Iona McLeod of Dundee City Aquatics, Millie Balding of Borough Kirklees, and Tegan Child of Beckenham. I have a question for you that I don't even know whether you have an answer, but I'd be interested to know what you think. why over getting on for 50 years have we been so good at breaststroke, particularly male, but now increasingly female?
The female question is really interesting because I can remember going to a British Championships in 2015 and us bemoaning the state of British female breaststroke. I suppose the conundrum then was, we've got coaches that can coach good male breaststroke, so why are we so poor at coaching women's female breaststroke? You know, Bob, we seem to have had such a history of male breaststroke, and interestingly, male breaststrokers that haven't necessarily come to the fore at junior age. So, you know, if we go back a long time, you know, we talk about the likes of Morehouse and Gillingham. These weren't prolific junior athletes at all. You know, you go to the sort of the next generation of the likes of, you know, the Gilchrists, the Jamesons. Again, these weren't great junior athletes. You know, what we seem to have is a group of males that mature much later.
James Wilby, for heaven's sake.
James Wilby.
It's a good case in point.
Ross Murdoch is probably another good example. You know, so we seem to have a level of patience sometimes in breaststroke that we don't seem to have, you know, with athletes in other sports. I think there's a terrific amount of excellent technical knowledge in breaststroke coaching that is passed from generation to generation. I think we're good at doing that. You know, one of the things that was great for me this year, I know we took a group of athletes to Flagstaff to train at altitude in January, and when you've got the likes of Ross Murdoch's, you know, training the same lane as James Wilby, training the same lane as Craig Benson, you know, that becomes pretty exciting to watch. You know, that sort of quality athlete.
Because you had Ian Edmund for a while, didn't Edinburgh?
Yeah, absolutely. And Ian didn't come to the fore until he was in his early to mid 20s. You know, so yeah, there's a level of knowledge and patience, like I said, that we seem to not have in other sports. And it kind of brings on another issue, which is that sometimes it can be quite difficult for our athletes to perform whilst they're going through the university system. You know, and we want to know one of the challenges that we probably need to get to better grips with is how we work better with some of the UK universities. You know, I'm just looking at the swimmers in the water at the moment. There's at least a couple of athletes there, Nikki Miller and Georgia Darwin, who train or have trained overseas. And again, you know, we have to be realistic. There are probably still not enough universities that offer the academic flexibility for athletes to get in the first place, and then the timetable flexibility for them to be able to continue to be high performance athletes, you know, in the UK. So, you know, we're very realistic. I think we can do a great job, you know, with the top 50 or 60 athletes that we can support fully, and we can provide financial support, you know, for the world-class program. But there are, you know, a large cohort of athletes that fall outside of that have to look at whether, you know, a UK university option is right for them, whether they're academically strong enough to get into those right places that are attached to a swimming program, or whether they're going to choose to continue the sport overseas. And, you know, we've had varying levels of success from that. You know, we just look at the last few days or so. Anna Hopkin, who now trains out in the US, seems to have moved her sport on a good stride forwards. Interestingly enough, in the women's 200 medley last night, we had Alicia Wilson, who was pushing towards the front of the field. She was only a second and a bit behind Siobhan. She started at Cal Berkeley this year, and she's had a terrific first season. You know, so for some athletes to go to the US, that works for them as well. You know, and through Becky's time, there were good examples of athletes it worked for. And other athletes, unfortunately,
we never... Harry, didn't he? He went to the States.
Absolutely. Gemma Spufford, that worked well for. Going back a generation before that, the Paul Howes, the Andy Jamesons of this world, you know, they were terrifically successful through that system. You know, and we have to recognise that we don't have the finance that US colleges have. We can't offer the scholarships that they can offer. We can't offer, in some cases, the racing opportunity. And we certainly can't do it for the level of athletes that can access the US collegiate system. You know, and that's a challenge for us. You know, we need to be better. We need to be creating stronger partnerships with some of our own universities. Scotland's trying hard. It's got 4 key university centres now that it's working with. England have just announced 5 performance centres. You know, one of them's in Nottingham, which is where Becky's from. You know, so those are places where the club is working much closer with a university partner to try and make that transition. And we talk about how you make good juniors, good seniors. That transition from school into university or college, is a real key point where, you know, you can either make the right decision and you make an athlete, or it can break an athlete.
Obviously, you've mentioned one area to work on there. Personally, for me, British swimming is in the best shape I've seen it in for a very, very long time. But what else over the next year, 4 years cycle, what are the main things that you want to target and really work on and progress?
I mean, that's a good question. So, I mean, we're always trying to influence our biggest sponsor, which is UK Sport. In essence, the government. You know, we want the flexibility to use the money that comes our way as much as possible. You know, in my own head, I would like us to be able to invest a little bit more in programs for the generation which sits under the top group. So, you know, I would like us to have more resources to invest in the group which sits below the top 50. I would like us to be able to go on more camps. I would like us to have a greater level of partnership with other countries. I'd like us to be able to learn more from other sports. Although I have to say, the UK sporting system is terrific in what it does across sports. You know, probably like no other country, we come together as different sports and talk about our problems and what the solutions are from that. We talked earlier about the support services that are in swimming now. Dale Brailsford talked about, you know, marginal gains however many years ago now, and that's what it's all about. You know, our science and medicine team are trying to find those 100ths of a second on starts, on turns, on free swimming speed that are going to make the difference between, you know, what we've achieved in the past and what we want to achieve in the future. You know, one of the stats that gets rolled out quite regularly from successful games in Rio was, you know, the combined fourth place total was 0.7 or 0.8 of a second, and that could have almost doubled our medal total. You know, and you suddenly go from a sport that wins 5 or 6 medals at an Olympic Games to one which is in double figures, and then you do start to get serious. You know, so that's how we have to move things forwards. We want to continue to invest as we do at the moment. We want to be able to bring, you know, some of the best minds into our sport. We want to continue to develop our coaches. And I personally think, you know, the development of coaching is absolutely key, because, you know, you develop and you invest in a coach. That is an investment that stays with you for the lifetime of the coach. You know, sometimes it can be a little bit flippant to throw money to an individual athlete, because, you know, some people stay with it, some people progress.
Illness, injury.
Some people get injured, some people get ill, and they leave the sport. And at the point in time they leave the sport, you know, there is an argument to say that, you know, some of the money leaves the sport, some of the investment leaves the sport as well. So, you know, the investment in coaching for me is huge.
Very good. And looking ahead, obviously, for the finals tonight, we haven't even spoken about that. Tonight, obviously, the last final. Who should we look out for? I mean, you can't call the men's 200 free, and if you can, it's just so difficult. Obviously, Duncan Scott has had one hell of a week, but what are you looking forward to tonight?
I mean, the 200 freestyle is probably going to be, it's the last event up, so it's going to be a real spectacle, I think. You know, I'd suggest that Duncan's had a pretty good week. I thought Tom Dean looked pretty good last night. I'm sure he's going to be in the mix. You know, James has won a couple of events as well, so, you know, it's going to be a difficult call to determine what the 1, 2, 3 is going to look like there. But I would imagine they're going to be fairly near the front of the pack. You know, from my point of view, the fact that, you know, we've got a young lad named Matt Richards in the final as well is great. You know, to have a 17-year-old lad in that sort of company is terrific experience. So that will be a great race. But I think we've got good races across the board. Women's 100 breaststroke, really difficult to call, you know, because we've got a couple of young girls. You know, one girl who's still a junior this year. Then we've got Tatiana, who's just 1 year out of junior swimming as well. And we know that both of those girls are going to swim really strong second 50s. Siobhan looked great this morning. You know, the fact that she's booked a place last night in the 200 medley seems to have relaxed her a little bit. You know, so I think it'll be a big swim to get past Siobhan on the 100 breaststroke, but it would be great. We've got a couple of good juniors that are pushing her close. Women's 100 fly, probably difficult to look past Alice on her performance this morning. You know, she was a good clear second ahead of the field. She looked strong. You know, again, she's somebody that doesn't have, you know, she doesn't have to perform on the 100 fly because she's already got a time on the 200 fly, so she'll probably be a little bit more relaxed than some of the, you know, the other girls. And then there's the 200 backstroke, and again, you know, the fact that Luke sort of managed to move things on so significantly this week, you know, and probably after, you know, a couple of years where he'd openly admit himself that he would want to have been better than he has been. He looked confident on his 100 back final, and he looked like he carried that confidence into his 200 backstroke heat this morning. So difficult to look past Luke, I think.
And Ben Proud looks so controlled on that 50 butterfly, doesn't he?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's you can forget Ben at sometimes, or take Ben for granted. The quality of his 50 freestyle was exceptional, and I'm sure he was just playing this morning. It wasn't super quick, but I'm sure he's got his plans for this evening, and he'll do a great job.
I find Ben, though, fascinating to watch when he races, because he doesn't breathe, and he hasn't done that for years now, but I'm always like, how do you spot the wall when you're not even looking at it, when your head isn't even up? How can you see the wall coming? But that's the kind of training. You talked about overseas swimmers. Ben's obviously doing really, really well out there in Turkey with James Gibson. They've created a great program there.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the lessons for us is, look, we'd always like to think that we have the best coaches and the best facilities, and we're the only people that can do a great job with our athletes. But we know that.
Hey, James is British. We claim it.
Absolutely. We know he's incredibly well coached by James, and George is incredibly well coached in the same program as well. And equally, we've had good examples in the past of other British athletes that have been well coached by people that have been supportive of the British system. So it makes no sense for us, to say to Ben, you have to spend your life living and training in Britain if he can be the sort of athlete that he is by training in a different environment with different athletes around him. And it seems to be exactly the tonic that he needs to move his sport to the next level.
I agree with Ben. Ben's one of those, for me, I kind of feel a bit sorry for, because he is a little bit shy and quieter than your Jimmy guys and your Adam Peaties, isn't he? And actually, what Ben's achieved in his career is amazing, and he is one of those top names that we should be talking about more. But like you said, that you take for granted a bit, because he is that shy character, and over 50 metres, I mean, some of the history of those boys, they're big, confident boys. You already heard juniors in the past. They've been big personalities. Yet Ben, I always want to give Ben a hug. He's just so sweet, and he's a lot more reserved personality. And the thing is, that's what I like. And we've talked so much about the team environment and those characters and building those friendships. These guys are going to be friends for life that are on the team at the minute. And having those, is it one of those that's really nice to see those that are big personalities on the team? Do they help the younger guys that come on? How does it work as a team dynamic? Because I think the atmosphere seems great, and they all seem to have really good banter, really laughs together. Is it nice when the juniors come on? Do they kind of look after them?
I think so, and I think where we've managed to move to is that it doesn't feel when we travel as a team as though the team is full of small cliquey groups of athletes. It feels as though, and probably one of the best examples was when Nick Parr swam a final at the European Championships last year in the medley team. So Nick was a junior last year, and he swam with Adam taking over from him, with James taking over from Adam, with Duncan taking over from James, and the way that they were able to support an 18-year-old lad who looks 14 to get a performance out of him, I think is probably a fair reflection of again the culture that we hope that we've been able to create, but also the fact that whilst we've got some strong personalities here, they're not domineering personalities to the expense of everybody else, and that's the important thing. Everybody gets the voice. There's no huge hierarchy within the team that says that unless you're a big name, you don't get support.
No, you can tell that
we're in this together.
You can tell that everyone is like one of my favourite events this week has been Dan Jarvis's 1500, because for me it's been a long time since I saw every single person stand up and get behind him. They wanted to see Dan make that, and that was really sweet, because you always get the club cheering, don't you? Yes. But for me, that's what made it so special, because all that side of people just stood up, was waving him on, and that support, you need that. And especially for Dan, who was out on his own, it was lovely to see around poolside how much everyone else wanted him to do it as well.
Absolutely. I think, and again, having good role models is incredibly important in the sport. The fact that there are athletes here that were Olympic medalists 3 years ago in Rio, and they're people that have a lot of humility. They're humble people that probably aren't public names particularly, is important as well, because everybody has to have an ego to be able to perform. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, but they keep it in the pool.
Exactly, and that's the important part of it. It's an ego in the pool, it's a confidence in the pool, but it's not an arrogance out of the pool. It's the arrogance out of the pool that can become a problem.
Tim, it's been great to spend an hour with you. I think we've covered a lot of bases there. We wish you well as you prepare and get everybody else prepared for the Olympics next year. And we're very excited about the cycle after that, the 4 years after that, with what the talent we've seen on display this week. Gets me excited, gets Becky excited, and should have the whole swimming fraternity excited, I think.
Thanks for that.
Does it get you excited?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it keeps you young, doesn't it? You know, and I'm constantly looking forwards with, you know, one of my close members of staff, Kevin Renshaw, who's an Olympic coach and coached a number of Olympic medalists. You know, we're constantly looking forward to and getting excited by the next generation, probably more so than the current generation. And that's not to belittle their performance, but we're always thinking about what could potentially happen and the results we could potentially have in the future. Because, you know, as you said, we don't want to see us win 3, 4 or 5 medals in the future, or 6 medals in the future. We want to see us right at the top of that medals table, and we think we have the talent to be able to do that.
So exciting.
It is. Tim, thanks for joining us for
Thank
an
you,
hour
Tim.
or so, and good to hear from you, the head of elite development there, Tim Jones, with his thoughts on where we are going forward towards Paris, and of course just over a year out from Tokyo. Well, just over 50 meters out from the conclusion of this one. Georgia Darwin of Newcastle entered in on a 17:09. Well, that will be a thing of history. Hopefully she'll go sub 17. She's certainly on course to do so. Second is Nikki Miller from East Kilbride, and third is Amber Keegan. We'll see the Newcastle swim at home. Good to see that program revitalized as well. We've had so many great swimmers, Chris Cook, Sue Rolfe, so many over the years, as we know, and here comes potentially another one for them as well. Georgia Darwin will finish up well inside the 17. Don't worry about 17. 16:47. That's a massive improvement for her from a 17:09 down to a 16:47. Liking that very much. In second place, it will be, and is, Nikki Miller of East Kilbride with a 17:02. So she's taken 20 seconds off her personal best. And then Amber Keegan of Sheffield with a 17:09. And Amber previously, she's right on it. She's just snuck inside it by 13/100ths, but it is a new personal best for her. And Amelia Rodd in fourth. Just to close out before we leave you, I've had James's younger brother Luke on, so you better mention James going in the 200 free tonight. Big shout out. Last one, fast one, is what Luke says. He thinks it's definitely up for grabs tonight. And there's a big Siobhan Marie O'Connor fan club out there who really wanted to go on and do something special in the 100 breast tonight.
I hope so too. I love Siobhan. I love watching her race. So fingers crossed to all the athletes racing tonight.
So we'll be back with more action, and the last action, of course, of this 2019 British Swimming Championships. We'll have, well, absolutely again, star-studded line. We'll have the fastest heat of the 1500 freestyle with Michaela Gladstone looking as the fastest qualifier in that one. Then we'll have the 50 butterfly, 3 finals, of course, in all these, junior 50, and then we will move on to the 100 breaststroke for women, the 200 backstroke. Here you go, that's everything confirmed from 6:30 onwards. The 100 butterfly for women, and then what could arguably be one of the finals, if not the final of the week. The 200 freestyle for men. Is it going to be Duncan Scott? Is it going to be James Guy? Could it be somebody else? We'll find out around about 8:05 tonight. Thank you for your company, Rebecca Adlington. You've been a star as ever. Thank you to Tim Jones for joining us. This is Bob Ballard signing off. We're back on air with the pre-race studio program at 6. We'll catch you later today. Have a good Sunday. Bye-bye.